All right, dude. Well, thanks for coming. I know you're in town rolling through, and I wanted to snag you real quick because you were hanging out with a good buddy of yours, Chad Mendez.
Yep.
He's a new local here in town,
Yep.
which I'm excited for. I want to get him on the episode, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know he's pretty busy. But Lucas, thanks for joining me, man. You've crushed it in the business world, and we're able to retire pretty early, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. I got
And
pretty
then
fortunate.
you took all this time that you now have on your hands, and you have traveled the world hunting and been on some crazy adventures.
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
I want to dive into that. Before we do, one thing that I do on the podcast, which is a little bit different, and I want to give veterans in law enforcement companies an opportunity to send us product completely for free so I can help any way I can. I feel as this platform grows, I want to be
Give
able
back a
to
little bit.
introduce and give back to
Yeah.
the community. So I'm going to send you home with some cigars, which are the War Machine or the Platoon cigar. He was actually a combat Marine, got out, became a cop, and got shot in the line of duty.
Okay.
So he's got a absolutely wild story. Hopefully we can get him out here soon. And then Sea State Coffee. He's a local guy, recon Marine, and he started this after getting out, and he just makes some of the best cold brews. And I've actually never had a coffee before in my life till I had him on the episode, and he called me out and made me drink it, and it was actually pretty good. So
Okay.
but yeah, so we'll make sure to send you home with a bag of coffee and some cold brews and some cigars. So and then I got a
Awesome.
pile of, we dug out the OG Wild Chaos shirts, some all hunting related ones. So
Okay.
make sure you go home with a pile of shirts. And yeah, so we're gonna get you all swagged up. But dude, jump right into it, man. I know you've traveled the world. Like I said, you got some pretty interesting stories. Let's just start with where you're from.
Yeah. So first off, thanks for inviting me. I know you and I have kind of connected through kind of like, I know the Hunt Expo I'd
Yep.
see every year and just kind of through social. So thanks for extending the invite. Yeah. So just a little bit about me, born and raised, North Central Montana, small farm community, less than 1,000 people. Just
We're at,
the town is called Chinook.
okay.
Great Falls, if you're
Mm-hmm.
familiar with Great Falls, Malmstrom Air Force Base there, just to the north and a little bit to the east. So, yeah, grew up there, small farm community, grew up on a farm and a ranch. Like, I mean, minus 40 below wind chill in the winter times, like walking to school every day to the bus. That was my upbringing.
I don't miss those days.
No, I've become very soft since I moved to California, and I'll talk more about that. But my whole upbringing was Montana. Through high school, went there, and then went to college in Butte, Montana. Got my undergrad and graduate degrees there, and of all places, got relocated to Central Coast of California.
Was that a weird transition for you? What year was this?
This was 2003, 2004.
Okay.
So it was my last year of college was 2003, and then I relocated in '04. It was a little bit. I had actually worked 2 summers, worked in oil and gas. That's where I got my education through, and worked for a fairly small independent company in California. They had recruited me to come and work as an intern. I did 2 summers there and just felt like this is where I needed to be. And I still remember like pulling that 26-foot U-Haul, leaving Butte, Montana. Like everything I owned to my name
Yep.
was in that U-Haul, and made the voyage. And yeah, I mean, I not too much detail, but 22 years later, I'm looking at myself saying I'm basically retirement eligible due to my time with the company.
Really?
20 years, yeah, locked in. And the company was kind of going through a sale, and had some vested interests that basically was able to take away from that. And yeah, I walked away from 22 years working for one company. Like people
That's
say, like,
very rare.
it is. And like part of my role in the company was like recruiting. It was engineering basically was what I worked in, but recruiting engineers. And so I would do a ton of hiring, and I would get resumes that are like 4 pages long. And I used to look at those and think like, this is a problem. Like, is this person going to show up and in 2 years bounce?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my resume was like one page, one company, multiple positions.
Not
But
even a page.
yeah, it was like just like super boring. But now it's like normal. People work 2 to 3 years and bounce. So anyway, long story short, but during that whole time, I mean, I know we'll talk more about some of my kind of my hunting stories, but I mean, I was looking back. My dad's birthday was April 4th, just recently. He was born in 1944, so his birthday was 4/4/44.
Okay.
Just as like, how could you even think that? But he passed in 2001, but I always go back every year on his birthday and look at old photos. And I pulled up a photo when I was probably 4 years old, and we had an antelope strapped on the top of a 1978 Honda Civic. Like,
Yep.
that's how we grew up. Like, I was 3 or 4 years old out with my dad, like
Wearing
hunting antelope.
jeans or Carhartts,
Absolutely, jeans, flannels, like
Yep.
that was hunting gear back then,
Hmm.
And so anyway, I've hunted my whole life. It's really become, I would say, part of probably like my identity to some extent.
Absolutely.
I had a very successful career, very professional. I mean, I was, 4 in the morning till 5 every day for years and years, working, chasing a career. And I just kind of realized, I was 42 at the time when I stepped away. Is November 23. It was like, I don't need to do this anymore.
Hmm.
And I think, people have asked me like, were you scared? Were you worried? And I was like, I was ready for it. Like, I was ready to jump out of this corporate, because we got big, we got corporate, and
Okay.
we
That changes
ExxonMobil,
everything.
ExxonMobil and Shell were the owners. And it just like, I mean, not to get into all the bureaucracy, but DE and I, all that stuff hit our company. And it just,
Absolutely.
COVID hit in 2020, and there were just so many things that, the company ended up going remote. So, a lot of
So you were
changes. And
ready.
dude, I was like, hit the button.
And when you know, you know. When you feel it, it's time. I feel like a lot of people drag it out, that they end up starting to resent it, or it's just your whole attitude, everything
Yep.
changes about something that you've loved or dedicated to for so long,
Right.
and then it's just time. So I agree, when that time comes and you just got that gut feeling
Yeah.
like, man, I've had a good run, jump.
No question. Like, it was a switch that flipped, and I just, like, my purpose there, I felt like was done to some
Okay.
extent. The company was changing a lot, and partly like me internally and how I was raised in certain things. It was just hard for me to align with certain things. And yeah, like I said, I actually announced in like the early part of 23, they kept me on for most of the year to transition my role. And
Yeah.
then end of 23, man, it was just like 2024 was just a crazy year. Like, started out literally, I flew to Turkey. I spent 2 weeks in Turkey, got back, went to Texas, and then I spent basically my whole fall traveling, just hunting, doing the things that I love to do. And I've somehow figured out like a way to like continue to do this and like not have to be in this big corporate structure world every day. And
Mm,
I think like as humans, like we just figure stuff out, right? Like,
absolutely.
I don't have a military background, and I've listened to some of your shows. I know a lot of your hosts or your folks that come in are military based, and it's like when they come out of the military, it's like a whole new world. Like, I got to
Absolutely.
figure out life again, right? Because
Absolutely.
that's all I know. And it's like that was your guys' career. Same thing for me. Like, I bounced out of corporate world, and now here I am, just like,
Free.
some days I get up at 4 in the morning and do my things. Some days I'm laying in bed at 7:30 and have nothing to do. Like, and my stress levels are almost to,
Hmm.
the minimal, like
Are you
cortisol
married?
levels are not married,
Ah, good
no
for you.
kids.
Good for you.
So that
That's
helps.
how you're able to travel so
That
much.
helps. I will say, people ask like, how do you do this? Like, are you married? I'm like, no. I'm like, do you have kids? I'm like, no. And that was that was a past life too. I was married prior, but probably one of my biggest regrets of life is at this point I haven't had kids. And
Yep.
I love kids. I have nephews, so they're a big part of my life. I treat them like my own, but it's just one of those things.
Mhm.
Life is, crazy, and things happen, and
Yeah,
here we are today, and make the best of what you have. So
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, to each their own. But it's funny you say that, like, because everybody just, I feel the veteran community gets the huge spotlight for this tough transition, right? Which it is, because we're showed nothing, we're taught nothing as far as like living a real life on the outside. But since starting this podcast, and I've talked to so many law enforcement or athletes, college athletes, it's just as bad for them. You got to think of this kid that started playing Pop Warner football at 7, 8 years old, even younger, and they go with their whole entire career all the way through college, and then their senior year, that last game, and most of them are already graduated. And they're like, okay, cool, have a nice life. I mean, the colleges are no different than the military. They give absolutely zero fucks about them.
right.
They're an athlete that are generating money and revenue for the school, and they got a fan base. As soon as you're up, your shelf life's over.
Yep.
They're taught, and it's the same thing with law enforcement and everybody else. And so, yeah, I mean, the corporate world, I mean, 20 years in one business, and then all of a
Right.
sudden the doors open. You're like, holy shit! Like, what do I
Yeah.
do with my life? I mean, you have
Yeah.
so many habits, so many just rituals in your day to day that you're probably so used to that are
Unbelievable.
ingrained in you.
Yeah.
It probably took some time to readjust and be like, fuck, I'm not setting my alarm today.
I know. I remember this was like Thursday, I had my going away party, and it was like Friday morning, like the next morning I woke up and it was like, okay, this is cool. But it wasn't like until Monday, because Mondays were always that, what am I going to get into? Because oil business is 24/7.
Yep.
Those things never stop going. The
No.
weekends, always have problems. So it was like Monday morning is always, so it was Monday when it hit me. It was like, wow, like I don't have to deal with HR issues, because I was a leader in my role in management, and so I don't have to deal with people issues. I don't have, all that stuff that, like I say, you're climbing this corporate ladder to try to get somewhere, and at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, none of that stuff anymore really matters.
Yeah.
It's like, because I've always had this burning desire, and I was always able to fit my personal life in with my work. I had an extremely great work-life balance. Like, if there was any plug, like, I'm so grateful that I had that time with the company that I did.
Yep.
I would call my boss and be like, "Hey, I'm stuck in Kyrgyzstan. Like, I'm going to be gone like another week." He's like, "Have fun. We'll see you when you get back." Like, everything's going to be here when you get back, right?
Yeah.
Either someone's going to take care of it, or it's going to be here when you get back.
Mhm.
Like, so I had a super good work-life balance, and it enabled me to continue to pursue my passion of traveling and, seeing these experiences, going places that most of the world's population will never see, places that, I've traveled and gone to. And
That's
it's
what I
like,
want to hear about.
it's the experiences, like,
Yes.
more than anything,
That's
you
why I
know?
love it so much. And we could get into this a little bit, but as a hunter and you have a social media following and you got a show. I mean, you guys do your thing, and the amount of hate that we get from the anti-hunting side, right? The biggest thing what makes me laugh about them is that my kids at their age have experienced more of this country and what it actually truly has to offer of being in the woods, being on the water, being in the desert, being in a forest. They're experiencing nature on a level that none of these anti-hunters, these animal rights activists have ever experienced. And I will put my kids toe to toe with any of them to be able to talk about a bear's habits and what they're doing in the time of year and when the deer are switching and when they're going to start coming down low. They
Yep.
don't know any of this shit.
Right.
And so for us, it's such an incredible thing to be able to experience. I mean, obviously you've done it on a worldwide level,
Yeah.
which we're getting there. And I want to start traveling with them and experiencing different things. But you get to see communities, and I'm speaking for for here in the United States, and you have probably wild stories, but and I've traveled, I've done Africa, Argentina, things like that. But you get to experience like just these little towns and communities. You're like, this is the coolest place we have been in a long time. Like, let's stop here for a couple days and just experience it and the
Yep.
culture and these little communities. And it's so incredible of what the hunting community, or not hunting community, what the hunting industry or just hunting itself was able to open you up to so
Yeah.
many different experiences all over the place. And that's
Right.
one of the biggest things that I get. Like, I never deny this, but like I'm not one of these guys like, man, I can't wait to go and hike my ass off for 15 miles a day. Like some dudes live for that shit. I want to get in, I want to kill something, I want to get out.
Right.
I want to have fun, I want to experience it, but I'm not the days of me grinding for
Sure.
30 days in the mountains, like doing a whole season chasing elk with a bow, miserable to me now.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
but I love that experience to be able to get in, you have fun, you're experiencing so many things, and it's the whole process from start to finish that really draws me back. And then the things that you get to see along the way. That's the coolest part. I don't ever hear a lot of people talking about it, but that's what when we tell all these stories, like, oh my God, we met this guy and
Hmm.
he was crazy. It's just that's what gets you out there. And that's
Right.
what kind of I feel like continues to drive me back is just the experiences that come along with these adventures.
Right. Well, it's like, I don't know who says it, but it's like learning is everything, or learning is experience. Everything else is just information.
Hmm.
It's like, I work with a company called The Experience, and I've released 4 or 5 films with them, and I've got 2 or 3 more in the queue. But like that whole production company, our whole thing is about the experience.
Hmm.
Like, the animal and the crosshairs of the shot, like that's secondary. It's the lead up. It's traveling, the 20 hours of plane rides, the 15 hours on a Land Cruiser, the
On a dirt
6
road.
hours on a horse just to get to where you can actually get to where the animals are. I mean,
Mhm.
you're talking 70 plus hours, right? It's that whole experience. And then it's like there's this little short period of time that shows the hunt. Like, and I appreciate that because like people ask me all the time, like what drives you? Like why do you go to all these places and think you have to go hunt all these animals? And it's like, for me, it's like, it's not about the meat. Like
Mhm.
I'll never go hungry. I mean, you and I are just talking about a fast you did, like, which is incredible. But like, we are so resilient as humans.
Yeah.
Like we'll never go hungry in life. You can
Mhm.
always go to the supermarket or you can go harvest it yourself, you know, but it's really about the people that you meet. I
Yes.
mean, the first time I went to Turkey and hunted ibex there, we literally stayed in a village in a home where these people had no windows in this home. And it was in March and it was cold. And everyone kind of sleeps around this little fireplace in the middle. They couldn't wait to feed us. Like they hardly have anything, right? And
Mhm.
they're feeding us foods. And we slept in this home for like 3 nights with this family. Like they don't have phones. They don't have social media. They don't have cars, right? They're just happy that Americans are there and someone's there for them to give them life. And
And they're the happiest they could ever be.
we give them so much life.
Mhm.
Like I spent almost a month in Mozambique in October last year. And those people specifically, like their salary is about $100 a month, maybe to $200 a month. If they make $1,500 to $2,000 a year, that's a good salary for the trackers and the skinners,
Mhm.
right? These are people that have nothing but the clothes on their back. That's all they know.
Mhm.
And literally, when they see an animal down and you're with it, they are so happy. I hunted a Cape buffalo. And when that buffalo was down, immediately they started skinning, taking meat off, started a fire, and started cooking the meat because that buffalo to them allows them to eat.
Yeah.
Like when we took that in and we took the buffalo, got it cleaned up, took it into the village. I mean, everyone shows up and like is thanking you, greeting you. The chief is like thanking you. We drive away and the PH is like, you realize you just fed a village for 3 months. And I'm just like, you know, like it's a totally different
Yeah.
view of hunters, but hunters never get that, right? It's what, like you were saying, it's the antis, it's the, oh my God, how can you kill animals, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, I don't do it for me. I don't do it for my ego. I
Yeah.
don't do it for the meat for me. I did that for hundreds of people
Yeah.
just so they could survive.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So,
I have a buddy, not a buddy, I have a client that very successful guy, hunted all over the world, and he's done some elephant hunts. He says the only thing that is left from an elephant is the wet spot on the ground.
it's, if I tell you how they conserve the animals, like my buffalo, this is a 20 some 100 pound animal. I mean, you don't realize how big those things are till you walk up to them. And then you're like, I've hunted a lot of big animals like moose, but like Cape buffalo are next level. And the only thing that was left there was the actual insides of the stomach lining,
Yeah.
like the basically everything that the buffalo didn't like digest. The stomach lining, every organ, everything,
Yep.
bones, all loaded up in the
Yeah.
truck. I mean,
And this is the craziest part. It's about, since we're kind of on the topic of the anti hunters and the animal rights people, I completely agree with them on a lot of things. I don't agree with how chickens are stuffed in cages and, on these chicken farms.
how they're treated.
I'm 100% against that. I'm 100% against how these cows in these slaughterhouses, like there's things that we can do to give these animals 100% a best life. And like, it's my goal as a father and how my dad raised me is nothing suffers. You make a bad shot, get on it, get another shot in it, get this animal down. That's our due diligence as an outdoorsman, is to
Right.
kill that animal as fast and as ethical as possible.
Right.
So when you see these people like, you agree with, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. But as my God-given right, I still have the right to go out and kill an animal in the mountains. This is an animal that's roamed its whole entire life. It's free range. It's dodged every predator. It's survived. It
Fair
has a
chase,
natural
right.
instinct. It's fair chase. That's my right to be able to do it. Just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean it's wrong, but we could come to an understanding on a mutual ground that I'm with you that these pigs shouldn't be in cages and their hooves are rotten and and it's that's sad to me. It's unethical and I feel animals it's a God's creature and it should be treated with somewhat respect and in a healthy environment. And so I agree on a lot of them. And I also agree that there's a lot of hunting ethics that are kind of, there's
Right.
some
For
things I'm like,
sure. Question.
I hear about, and nothing wrong if guys do it, but, and I mean, if I had the money, I'd probably do it, but who knows? But, these guys that are chasing grizzlies in Russia at a helicopter, they just get let out and the helicopter pushes by. I'm like, to me, that's just my
Not the
thing.
experience you're looking
It's
for,
not the
right?
experience I'm looking for,
Right.
but but to me, I couldn't like defend somebody because to me, when this big bear's running, and like, dude, we're sitting on bear rugs for crying out loud, right?
Yeah.
I have a huge respect for bears, so to me, that's not sporty. Like I want it as free range as ethical and as possible. And so, like, yeah, I could agree. Like, yeah, I mean, this bear's tongue's hanging out, it's running by you, and you shot it out of a helicopter, or the helicopter let you out and drove it by you. To me, that's not hunting, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
but to each their own. And so I feel like if they just listened and realized what actually went into going into the mountains, finding the animal, being able to kill the animal, bringing it home, the process of going down and breaking down an animal in your own home and being able to wrap that up and put it in your
Right.
freezer, there's nothing greater. And then having these stories, and then your kids, at least for me, I'm like having my kids part of that, or like when my daughter shot her first bull, like, I mean, dude, it was the
Yeah.
greatest
It's a
thing
huge
ever.
experience, right? Yeah.
Huge experience.
Yeah.
My
Life
young,
changing could be for that child,
absolutely.
right?
When my youngest shot her first whitetail this last fall, she did almost the whole entire deer on her own. I was actually doing a podcast today when we were starting to process it. I'm like, "Hey kid, you gotta do something." You're 10 years old. I give her a knife. I'm like, "Don't cut yourself." You know how it is. Like, you
Yeah.
gotta learn.
Improvise.
You
Figure
gotta
it out,
learn.
right?
And we finished the podcast, and dude, she had all the silver skin off of it. It was all in the little groups, and I was just like, just follow the lines. The animal tells you where to cut.
Mhm.
Just follow your instinct. And I was expected to just be chunked up everywhere.
Right.
She did a phenomenal job at it, and she
Yeah.
still talks about it. And like her little friends now come over because we fed a couple of them some antelope because she's super proud and wanted to be able to share that with her friends. Every time her friend comes over, she's like, "Can we have more antelope? Can we have more antelope?" And it's
Right.
just like, okay, like that to me, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I, I I don't feel there's anything wrong with that. The animal had a free chance, and so
Right.
I feel that there's a lot of common ground. But us as hunters, we're so defensive, and anti-hunters are so defensive. But if they realize hunters care just as much for animals as they do,
Yeah.
unless you're
Or more, right? I mean,
I would say more.
right.
Unless you're like the sadistic side that are like, laughing because this deer's legs hang, whatever. To me, I don't know.
Right.
I don't deal
Right.
with that. And so, but yeah, it's teach their own. It is a business of killing an animal, taking a life, and it's not easy, and
Right.
so yeah, I get it. Like when I shoot a bear, man, I don't feel good when I shoot a bear because I love bears so much and I've invested so much into bears and learning everything. When a bear dies, I'm like, I just get that feeling. I'm not like, yeah, I
Yeah.
just killed this bear. I'm excited, but it's like, damn, dude, like
It's an emotional thing.
it's a badass animal.
It's an emotional thing. I mean, any animal, regardless of, if you're out squirrel hunting or whatever, like whatever your thing is, like I've met so many people that are experts in so many different biological science things and guys that are like, love to just squirrel hunt. Like that's all they do is squirrel hunt. And they're,
Turkeys.
yeah, turkey hunt. I mean,
Teach
birds
their own.
or waterfowl or whatever. And it's like, but it's so cool that someone has that much passion for
Mhm.
something, but they truly do care more about that animal than anybody else does. And to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, I think part of the problem is education. Like
Absolutely.
a lot of the conservation organizations try to educate, try to promote, hey, we're transplanting animals here, we're trying to, make sustainable, herds in these areas and like they're doing a decent job, but we have not educated the public enough to
Mhm.
really understand like all of our forefathers and people way before us, they didn't have Albertsons. They didn't have refrigerators, right? They couldn't go to the store and buy meat and put it in their freezer. Like they had to go hunt and fair chase the animal. They had to dehydrate it somehow by hanging it out and letting it, sit for days and days and days. Like
Salting, curing it.
all of that. Like,
Yep.
and I read a book recently, 1 Second After, and it talks about what happens after an EMP strike and not to get all weird, but like if that happened in this country, Cell phones are done. Refrigeration's done.
Mm-hmm.
So, 60% of the world's population who takes prescription medications now, they're gone, right? And then people that rely on a store to get meat, they're gone. So it goes through this phase of, and I think about it and I'm like, bring it. Like a world without a phone, and I had to go and actually survive and live on my own. I can pump water. The things that to me have become a natural way of my life, like put me anywhere, like put me on Survival, put me on any of those shows. Like, like I could make it happen, I could live in that. So, but the rest of the world,
they don't even think about it.
They don't. And it's like this glass ball that people live in. But back to that education, it's like to what you were talking about, like I have taken so many first hunters, good friends of mine and their kids out and taken them on pig hunts in California. And like that moment in life when they pull the trigger, I think it's a life-changing event for that kid.
100%.
Because I'll go out with my buddy and he's like, dude, Jax has not stopped talking about that hunt we did a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
When are we going again? Like, and if we don't do more of that, this is one of those things and it worries me, like kids are less interested in these outdoor activities. This stuff just kind of goes away. I mean, history repeats itself and a lot of different things. Like if we don't have youth involved, hunting in 50 years may be a pastime,
So it's almost becoming that now on just how expensive it is.
Dude.
Did you see what Utah just did?
Well, they're proposing double up to double on tag fees for non-residents. And
non-res now is going to be $1,200 or $1,500 for an elk tag.
Yeah, for spike elk tag. And then your limited entry stuff. I mean, I know I've been following some of the stuff a little bit, but it's like, just domestically putting in for points, it's getting expensive. But the international world of like Ovis, which is sheep, and like capper for goat stuff, even in North America. Like,
so ibex have been like, that's my one obsession. If I could hunt, I want to shoot a hippo on land. I want it charging. Get it?
The whole experience.
And then ibex. I dream about ibex, but I've watched this go for the last 5-8 years. I mean, I'm like, fuck, well, there goes that.
Right.
I could afford one in my lifetime now. It's like,
right.
I mean, you can go to Spain. I mean, there's some cheaper ibex hunts that you could definitely do, but in order to chase them, it's like, dude, it's almost impossible now because of the price on everything is just gone through the roof. So it's now this, what became, hey, let's take our kids out and go have fun, is now like becoming this rich man sport, or you got to have a lease, got to have some private property, or you're just grinding it off in the backcountry and you're fighting everybody else that's out there. So it's changed a lot in the last 10 years, I would say.
I wouldn't call it like a problem or like an epidemic, but there has been this a lot of it's been since 2020.
Yes.
There has been this escalation. I mean, in some species, like moose have like over 200% in price. Stone sheep, like a lot of the North American sheep have just gotten
$30,000 to shoot a moose or something like that now.
35 to 40. I mean, I did mine in 2017 for $7,500. I did most of it myself, but transporter went in, did it myself. Like probably one of the most rewarding hunts I ever did, 14-day hunt off the grid. But like
by yourself?
I had one other buddy with me.
Let's get into that.
Dude, that was a wolves. I mean, there was
Alaska makes or breaks you as a man.
No question.
It is the most intimidating, and I haven't traveled like you have, like hunting wise, but Alaska to me is one of the most intimidating, will check you faster than anything place I have ever been.
Right. I mean, when most of the time there's a predator anywhere within, 5 square miles of you, anywhere in that state, like
when we're talking predators, we're talking predators.
Big bears, wolves. I mean, stuff that
a Wolverine will fuck your shit up.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Nobody thinks about that little angry bastard.
Right. Right. No. So one of my best friends as a kid, we always just had this, and he's a big bow hunter too. We always had this dream of doing this whole, like basically transport trip, drop us off 14 days off grid in the middle of central Alaska. So we ended up finding a transporter, and there's a lot to this. Is one of many stories, but anyway, we got it all lined up. I started in LA. I met him in Seattle to Anchorage, overnighted at Anchorage, and then we took a small flight to Aniak, which is kind of central, I would say more to the west, not the peninsula, but more central west in Alaska. From there, And the crazy thing about Alaska is there's like what 4 road systems there, right? Major road systems
Yep.
that go to the major cities, but everything else is via float plane or, some type of commuter plane. Like the lifeline of villages in Alaska is an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
When we landed, there were people waiting there to get their avocados, their lettuce, their
Yep.
bread. Like that's how those people survive,
Yep.
right?
That shocks a lot of people because we do a trip every year with a bunch of vets, and where we stay the first night we get in town, it's right on this lake, and it is just float plane, float,
Yep.
and there's just people unloading stuff and loading, and they're just going. And these guys are like, man, what the hell's going on? I'm like, that is the transportation in Alaska is
Right.
float plane. Like everybody
Right.
has a pilot license there.
Everyone is a bush pilot there. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just pretty. And even if they don't have their license, there's probably guys flying planes that, yeah,
100%.
that have never have formally got their license. But
100%.
yeah,
I've seen some kids where I'm like,
yeah. Well, then you get in a Super Cub and they're flying the thing with their feet and their foot pedals, and you're just like, all right, well, if this is it,
they're just
hey,
hanging
yeah,
on,
this
just,
is it, right? But
just trying not to die.
But no, anyway, we took so we took Super Cubs in one by one, dropped us in all our gear, basically everything. And he's like, I'll see you guys in 14 days. Like one of those deals.
Yep.
Landed us on top of a mountain, dropped the Super Cub. And so we set up our tent. Of course, it's raining like crazy.
Always.
It's September. And anyway, so kind of a little bit about like the hunt. I mean, we hunted hard. We were bow hunting, so we didn't even have sidearm, which is I had a 10 millimeter. He had a 9 millimeter. So we had a sidearm, but we weren't not like hunting with our handguns, right? And literally within like the first hour glassing, there's a giant inland grizzly bear, and there's a couple, and I had a black bear tag too on that. I bought one. I'm like, we were seeing giant black bears. I wasn't really worried about the black bears, but
Yeah.
the grizzly bears, inland Alaska, they're meat eaters.
Mhm.
The coastal brown bears, they're so big because they eat high fat, salmon, I mean, they'll eat meat if they have to, but
Mhm.
their diet is so high, rich in fat with fish. But inland grizz, it's like, you kill a moose,
You're on the food chain.
you kill a moose, and that's what happened. I killed my moose, and next thing you know, every day, 4 days straight, 14 trips. It took me to pack out close to 650 pounds of meat. And I like, when you were talking about your fast, I'll show you a picture at the end of what I look like in my tent. It's like, I look at that and I'm like, I can't even believe that was me. But the thing was, like, it was so rewarding because I arrowed him, I hit him in the chest, ran off. He didn't die. I had to do a follow-up shot, and I shot him and killed him. Well, that same time, when I was going into stalking on my moose, I heard a gunshot. And we're 60 miles south of Antioch, which is, there's nothing. I mean,
Okay.
there's a river there, but there's nothing. I hear a gunshot, and I'm like thinking, and we didn't have communication time. I had an inReach to text out, but he didn't have any communication. So, which was hindsight, not very smart,
Yep.
because we split up every day and hunted ourselves, did our own thing. Like 2 minutes later, I hear another gunshot, and I'm like, okay, that's odd. Like, and I'm glassing back to camp, and I'm looking for my buddy and didn't see him. So anyway, end up shooting the moose, kill him. And it was September, so it would get dark by about 11-ish, and then it start getting light again at about like 4 or 5. It wouldn't get like super dark, but it was
Yep.
kind of getting to
It's
that
at
point
dusk.
where Alaska was kind of transitioning from all light all day to, more dark. Anyway, I broke the whole thing down by myself that night. I literally,
God, how
like,
long that take?
it was unbelievable. Like, so I quartered everything. I got all the meat off of it, but I didn't get like the meat off the ribs that night. The next day I came back in, because in Alaska, the law requires you to take everything, all the meat. Like, when we got back to Antioch, there was a fish and game guy there, and we literally had to go through, here's the 4 quarters. I had to saw cut the quarters in thirds, because non-residents cannot you cannot debone the meat in Alaska, but you can leave the bone. So I had to saw cut into thirds because I could not pack those rear quarters by myself. They were so big.
Yeah.
And I had to go 2 miles back to my camp.
So it would take you at least 2 trips to do a hind quarter.
Yeah, and I was packing 2 cuts of those per trip. Like, that was a 100+ pound pack, through the marsh, through the bog, through the alders, like, so like I said, totally rewarding. But anyway, so that night I get back to camp. It's 2:30 in the morning. I get back into camp, and my buddy's laying in the tent. He's just laying there, headlamp still on, and his eyes are just wide awake. And he's like, "Did you get a bull?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've got one down, dude." And I'm like, "How are you doing?" He's like, "I had the craziest day." He goes, remember that bull on the backside of where because we had called to another bull. Well, he was living in this area. He starts cow calling to it. Thing starts coming on a line to him. So he's like kind of panicking. He gets his bow, he gets his arrow set,
Yeah.
everything ready. All of a sudden he hears a twig snap behind him, turns around and looks, and at like 5 feet, there's this giant timber wolf there. Drops his bow, 9mm, right point blank, boom. Drops this wolf, big black alpha.
No.
I mean, meat of the tripod. So he's freaking out. The bull's like wondering, okay, he's got this bull at like 100 yards. It stops. So he grabs his bow, starts
I don't mean to
again.
interrupt. I'm 100% shooting that wolf over a
Oh,
bull.
dude.
Hands down.
Dude. But it gets
He made
better.
the right decision.
It gets better. So he starts calling the moose back. The bull starts coming at him again. He gets his bow, gets the arrow knocked, looks rack. A silver tip one's right behind him, like closer. So he just grabs it and literally said it was like in its neck. Shoots this thing, rolls that one, shoots 2 wolves in under 2 minutes within point blank range. The moose runs off, and he's just like, I get back at 2:30 in the morning. This was at like 6 o'clock because I heard the gunshots.
Yeah.
He's still
Worked up.
and these two, he's got them all skinned out, and they were sitting out. They were like almost 8.5, 9 feet nose to tip. These are giant wolves that he shot. And anyway, so he helps me a couple days. Last day I go to get the head out, and I'd always glassed. I have some game bags that I have that are fluorescent. I set them out, and they were, so I could see where, like, from camp I could glass through my spotter. And I'm looking, and I'm like, and there was like clouds kind of coming in, but I could see something on the carcass. Sure enough, there's a grizzly bear on the carcass last day. So I'm like, oh, this ought to be fun. So my buddy was so worn out after the 2 days. He's like, I'm like, dude, just stay. I'll go get the head. Because that was the last thing to come out. We'd gotten all the meat out, 4 days. It was the last day I'm going in. And there's this giant grizzly bear just tearing the carcass apart. Like, because I did what's called a gutless method, where you leave all the guts inside, but just take all the meat, cut the rib meat out. I did a rib roll, so I took all the rib meat, but just terrorizing this carcass. And I get to probably like 200 yards. And I've just got my 10mm with me. I didn't take my bow. I had my pack, and I just start yelling at it like, hey, bear, like kind of what you're supposed to do. Hey, bear. Turns around, looks at me, and its, face is just bloody. It had, meat in its mouth, and it just kind of looks at me, and it just clenches its jaw, just like one of those, just,
Crack.
you know how they do that?
Mm-hmm.
You've shot a lot of bears, hunted a lot of bears. So I'm just like, all right. In my head, I moved it that day before away from the carcass, thinking that, and I pulled the meat away too, just thinking that hit the carcass, don't hit the meat, right? I pulled the meat probably 100 yards away on all sides. So I start walking up to this bear, and just does not want to leave this carcass. And the one thing I should have done is I should have pulled the head below. I pulled the head above to the right, so I had to kind of go by and around.
Yeah. Okay.
So I get up to this bear, and I just take my 10mm and shoot like, 10 feet to the left of it, shoot a couple times. It gets up, freaks up. It runs up like 100 yards, sits on top of this hill, turns around, and just sits on its ass and just sits there and looks at me. And I'm like, okay. So I walk up, I'm taking my pack off. I lay my pack down. I take the head, I strap it in. I had paracord tied.
And you're doing this without taking your eyes off this bear.
And I'm literally watching. I mean, probably would take 5 seconds and would be like on me. Like,
so you cannot look down.
No, I'm like sitting there, and every time I had like a buckle, I'd look down, I'd buckle it, I'd cinch, and I had paracord. I was tying paracord on it, so I'd have kind of like, like something to hold, because those moose heads are just, I mean, it's that head weighs with the skull 80 to 100 pounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get this pack on, and it's funny. I got video of me trying to put the pack on, and it's all squiggly, and I turn around and I look, and the bear's still sitting there. I start walking off, and immediately as I'm walking back, I turn around and I look, comes right walking back down, right back to the carcass, didn't even care, and just started hammering that carcass again. Walked off, walked back, got to camp, get back to camp, get back on my spotter, still hitting the carcass.
Oh, he laid on that thing for a week.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's pretty common. Like, anytime people are hunting bears in Alaska, like if there's a dead something somewhere, there's 95% of the time there's going to be a bear on that carcass, So anyway, that was between that story, the hunt, the wolves, like that was like when we got back to Antioch and landed, we like both looked at each other and was like, that was like level 10 epic. Like everything we experienced.
On your deathbed. You remember that on your deathbed.
Yeah. I mean, who gets to go and like literally point blank shoot 2 giant wolves at point blank range and with a 9mm of all things? Like wolves aren't too hardy, but
no.
but anyway,
still.
he ended up not shooting a moose, and I've told him, and I'm indebted to him because he helped pack mine out. I'm like, dude, whenever you want to go back, you tell me. I'll go and not even bring my stuff
Mm-hmm.
and just be your Sherpa. And when you shoot one, I'll help
You
you
just
pack
buy
it out.
wolf tags this time.
Exactly.
No,
Well,
it's
see,
just
in Alaska, you don't even have to buy wolf tags.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can just shoot them.
They're everywhere. There's some.
Yeah,
There. There's some.
they're savages, man.
They are.
Yeah.
Man.
So anyway, that was probably like from a North American standpoint. I mean, I've hunted a lot in Canada, BC, of course, and I've hunted a lot in Mexico. And Mexico, that's for a whole different other podcast. I mean, there's always.
Do you have any cartel stories?
I don't have anything like specific to like getting stopped and being, but like we were down there one time and it was on a turkey hunt of all things. I've deer hunted a few times down there, but we were on a turkey hunt down there, and one of the ranchers had to leave and go back to the ranch gate. Every time, one of the things that I always look for when I go to Mexico is like if I book a hunt, like will the rancher be with us at the border driving us across, right? At least we're with someone who can translate. I'm I'm pretty terrible at Spanish. I can pick up words and get by, but I'm by no means fluent. Even working in California for 20 years, like I could pick up on it. But so always making sure the rancher's with you, getting you across the border, driving you to the ranch, getting into the ranch, locking the gate behind you and driving in. And then from there, like the pressure's off, you know. There was something that had happened in a nearby town where the rancher, his father was the mayor of that city,
Okay.
which even made me feel a little bit better knowing that they had that many connections there. But there had been a shooting that had happened in that city, and it was all cartel related. And the rancher had to leave the ranch, unlock, go through the gate, go to the town because his dad got involved in whatever you know, stuff. But like nothing where we got stopped point blank. Like,
I've
but
heard some wild stories.
I know people that have had that happen and like pillaged their vehicles, took everything that they had, like, or just was cordial and they were able to, you know, get by without any problems. Sonora traditionally is not known for a lot of cartel activity, which is where a lot of the hunting happens in Mexico. But dude, at the border, I mean, you see the stuff that happens. I mean, in a lot of the bordering Nogales and places like that. I mean, that stuff's real. Like,
It is.
and I think right now with what's going on, I mean, President Trump loved him to death, loved the family, but you know, now as said, the cartel is like, you know,
Tensions are high.
yeah, number one, like security threat, and then everything going on with tariffs. I mean, there's a lot going on the border right now. That's probably not a place that right now I would probably be traveling to.
Yeah.
You know,
It's interesting. Like I have a buddy, a good buddy of mine. He has got the wildest cartel. I mean, he was hunting. They were doing coos deer one year.
mm-hmm.
They're down there and they're on the ranch and they're on this other side of this little ridge and they hear like this just full auto machine guns going off and they're like, what the hell? And they go over there, they're checking it out and they don't see anything and they're driving out and he's like, whoa, hold on. And he sees something off the side of the road. He's like, stop. And they get out of the truck and they go walking over there. There's 3 bodies and they're still like bubbling. He's saying like they're still doing the process of
Right.
pretty much dying. Like, holy shit, like, what do we do? And he looks up and this truck is hauling ass at them through the desert. And as it comes, they just start running because what do you do?
What do you do? Yeah.
They dive down in the desert and that truck just opened up on them and sprayed all, like, just dusted everything. No one got hit. Truck just keeps going, takes off. And they're like, we're fucking out of here.
Right.
And I mean, but he's got so many stories of just, dudes coming in the middle of camp at night. I mean, I've wanted to go hunt Mexico for years, but he's such a good friend. And I hear his stories, and I'm like, he's always trying to get me to go down. I'm like, I'm good, bro. I'll pass. I don't need something that bad.
I know. And the hunting is so good there. Like if it's coos, if it's mule deer, like even the desert sheep. But the story conservation there is incredible. I mean, they've been doing a lot of breeding there, but I mean, desert sheep will probably be the cheapest North American sheep in the world because of the population and what they've done in terms of sustainability of that animal. But I had a bunch of friends. I asked them, hey, how'd your hunt go in Mexico? Well, we didn't do very good. We couldn't go over the next ridge because the cartel was over there. We ended up just leaving the camp. And I'm like, I have not had one of those experiences, but I know that I think it's just a matter of time. If you hunt down there enough, you know, odds are something could happen. And I don't know, I just went in January. I took a group down, we leased a ranch and had a great time, shot good coos deer. But I was kind of thinking in my mind, I don't know if I want to keep doing this every year. Just
Just rolling the dice.
there's so many other cool places and things to do, and it gives you something to do in January, February, but it's like, it's still, I mean, risk reward, it's like in anything in life, right? Or is the reward worth the risk? And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
So as far as traveling around the world,
yeah.
craziest country you've ever had to deal with?
So it was all a timing thing, and and you probably still having roots in some of the military stuff that you've done. Like, I went to Kyrgyzstan in 2021,
Okay.
and it was post COVID. So there was the whole, mass protocol. There was all the testing and all that we had to do. I remember I, this is how crazy it is. Get to LAX, do the PCR test, which is the $150 test, the rapid, $150. Land in the next place, do another one. So I'm like literally between the last 2 hour connection, like I got to test again and I had to pay for it. We just, all these tests, all this
Mhm.
crap, right? Um, August of 2021, and you may remember this when the Taliban went into Kabul and took over
Oh,
the
yeah.
airspace.
Yep.
Like I had just got back from British Columbia, had a week in between hunts. I had done a stone sheep hunt in British Columbia, and I was literally backed up to this hunt in Kyrgyzstan. All this stuff was happening in Kabul before I had no service in BC, totally remote 14-day backpack hunt. I get back into LA and I'm seeing all this stuff going off. No airspace, can't fly over Afghanistan. Well, Kyrgyzstan, you got to kind of fly through Afghanistan. Well, FAA had set no fly zones all around Afghanistan. Like there were no airplanes flying around Afghanistan because they were Taliban. I mean, there were videos of them on airplanes with fully autos. I mean, it was the whole thing, that
Yeah.
takeover they did. So my mom, of course, she's always worried when I travel. I always try to tell her, I'm like, mom, it's like most places I go, like I feel more feared for my life in downtown Oakland than I do in a lot of places I
Oh,
go.
for sure.
Like it's just as bad in a lot of places in America than it is anywhere else. But so anyway, we fly from LAX to Istanbul, connect there, and we fly into Bishkek, which is the capital of Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan is 5 to 7 million people. Probably 7/8 of that population is in Bishkek. Like there is, I think, less than 1 million people outside of the actual capital.
Really?
Over 70% of the country is over 10,000 feet. Like it's, when you just look up and you're like, okay, that's where I got to go to get the eye. I mean, it's very,
Uh-huh.
very, I don't know what the word is. Like it's not like fearful, but like when you go into those mountains, you're like, okay, I got to have like my game face on, right?
Yep.
But anyway, we land in Bishkek. They had to alter the flight path because of flying near Afghanistan, which was kind of like, whatever, like, planes are traveling everywhere every day, it was during COVID. So there was that whole unknown, am I going to be able to fly back? How, it just, there were so many unknowns
Yeah.
about the world at that time, and traveling internationally was, you had to have all these quarantine plans. I mean, dude, I think back now and I told myself, am I going to laugh or cry when I look back on what we did during that time? And seriously, there's parts of me that want to cry to think about what we did during that time.
Oh,
Just,
really?
just like we really did that.
Like
We,
what? Like what
well, like
stands
I
out?
just think like in my corporate world, we couldn't be in a conference room, but we would sit with masks on in the office. You're there, she's over there, and we would have a meeting on Teams like this, looking at each other, but we couldn't have a meeting in a meeting room. Like that stuff to me, I just like,
Make it
like
make sense.
we've totally gone crazy. Anyway, long story short, we do our hunt. We have a phenomenal hunt, and we get back to Bishkek. Shot 2 really good ibex, and it was the quintessential travel. 20 some hours, get in a Land Cruiser, 14-hour drive. Nothing out of Bishkek. There's no domestic flights in Kyrgyzstan. It's you get in a vehicle and you drive. Then we get to camp overnight, get on horses the next day for 6 hours, cross these just torrential, huge rivers on horses, cut into these glacial mountains. Like I've got a video on it. It's an unbelievable trip. We do the hunt, we get off the mountain, we get back. We had one last night in camp. We get back to Bishkek, and part of like traveling with the animals, like which actually ended up being a good thing. you can fly home and travel like with ibex. If you get your CITES permit, which is basically your import permit to take
Yep.
them back, you can put them in check bags and bring them home. And that saves
Really?
you, yeah, a year from having to wait to clear customs, saves you the fee to have them shipped.
How are you putting these in check bags? Are you knocking the horns off the skull?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they boil the skulls,
Okay.
the horns come off because they're a goat,
Yep.
and then the hides they salt treat.
Or the
So
sheaths, I should say. Sorry.
yep, exactly. There's sheath that go over the skull. So the skull's boiled, no brains in it, no, any of that neurological material. The horns come off, they're banded together, and then the hide or the cape is salted and closed. So I mean, literally one soft-sided bag, I had 2 ibex in that thing that I checked as a
That's
check on bag.
genius. I
Oh,
never even heard of that.
it's when people tell me they're going, I always tell them, I said, make sure your outfitter can get you all your permits ahead of time so you can travel home with them because it'll save you thousands of dollars in shipping and all that other stuff.
Well, years to
And
get it
years
back.
to get it back, right?
Yeah.
I've got stuff sitting in Turkey right now. I've got a lot of stuff sitting because of U.S. Fish and Wildlife having
Yeah.
problems getting the import permits. So anyway, we finish our hunt. We get our PCR test because we had to do a negative test. Well, my camera guy and the other guy with me, they both tested positive, of course. So we're like, so back then it was the 10-day quarantine.
Like, how are you coming down with COVID in the middle of Tajikistan? Like, being
It's
in
the
the
one
mountains.
place you want to be where, yeah, COVID doesn't even exist in these places, right?
I'm surprised they were even playing by the bullshit rules.
I know. Well, the problem is for us to actually get on our Turkish airline flight, we had to prove a negative test.
Okay.
So anyway, they made that happen because they basically just, the lady came and did the swab. That was the worst swab I've ever had. She put that thing in both of my nostrils and I felt like she was like tickling the back of my brain, dude. It
I'll
was like,
be honest with you. I've never had a COVID test. None of my kids, none of us in this family, we've never been tested.
yeah. I was against all that, the jab, all of it, but it
Yeah.
was like to travel, you had
Oh,
to
for
do the
sure.
test.
Oh, I get it.
And so anyway, so we do the test. One or actually a couple of them come back negative. So that delayed us a day, which actually was okay because we were still getting the permits to be able to take
Yep.
our animals home. Well, during this time, somehow, like the Fox News of Kyrgyzstan, it's called Svoboda, I think, Svodka.
Okay.
I was going back and trying to prompt my mind so I could tell the story because this was 4 or 5 years ago. The Fox News of the country of Kyrgyzstan somehow got a picture of me with my ibex, and it says, American hunters come to our country, hunt red book animals. They need to be thrown in jail, blah, blah, blah. So I start getting all of this mail, and I'm not kidding you, like I could not keep up with my Instagram DMs deleting or blocking. They were coming in that fast because what had happened is somehow this photo got out, this news forum put it on their Instagram feed, and then it just got shared. I mean, I think the analytics on it got shared like over like 8,000 times.
Oh God.
So we're flying back to the US and all this stuff is happening. We land in LAX and I get a message from the Instagram account, like the verified Instagram account saying, we are putting your Instagram account on hold for 14 days, blah, blah, blah. Dude, it blew up everywhere. Like all over the country was this picture of me and my buddy Andy behind
Everything you
this
do was
ibex.
legal.
100%. But back to our conversation about education.
Mm-hmm.
People there think that ibex are, it's like a cow in India. Like you don't eat cow there. It's a sacred animal. Like there are people in those countries that have no idea what we as Americans bring as tourism to these countries. We bring life to these people, right? So this went on for 2 weeks where hate mail. They were finding me through my YouTube account. They were finding me through, they found emails that I had attached where I was getting death threats. You should die the same way these animals did. If you have kids, I mean, all that stuff, right? Just kept going and going. And my buddy asked me, he goes, are you worried about this? Like, is this like, and I'm like, I mean, I am, but I'm not. Like, what are they going to do? We're already back in the States. We've got our animals,
Thank God you brought them back.
Right. Absolutely. But like, that was one of those things where it was like, I learned a very valuable lesson that I don't send anybody photos or do anything on social media till I am back in the US. Because I don't know how photos leaked. Whenever I usually do
I was just
something, I
gonna
send
ask
buddy
you that.
photos,
Yeah.
right? I send my buddies photos or whatever. Well,
First thing you do, like, there's
right,
memes about it. Who's
dude.
the first person you text, like,
Yeah,
when you shoot something?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, dude, check this out. Well, I still don't know how all of that happened.
Were they the professional photos? Like,
Yeah, they were like some of our really good photos from our camera guy. The only thing I can think of is we WhatsApp pictures to our outfitter and our guides.
oh,
Did they send them and that and all? Well, then they started reaching out to me because they were like, "This is getting bad. Like Russia's involved." And I mean, we were right on the Chinese border where we
yeah.
hunted. We had to clear. That was another part of the story. We had to literally go through a small part of China and we had to clear our rifles. I mean, everything in Asian countries, it's military police. You've been to Argentina, everything is military police there. They're
Mhm.
all MPs. They all have fully autos. Like they're not like our, customs people or whatever. Like
No.
they're like if something goes down, they can protect themselves. We had this little debacle with a serial number issue, which ended up being it was basically a typo, but
Yeah.
it caused this little bit of, they start questioning and, they speak Russian Kyrgyz. So it's like a Russian basis, but they have kind of their own dialect of Kyrgyz is what it's
Yep.
called in Kyrgyzstan. So you're just like, your head's just like spinning because you're thinking, okay, this might be it. I might be like that American gets thrown in Russian prison, or Chinese prison. But no, we get back, all this stuff just gets crazy. And this went on for about a month. And then it just slowly started to just
Yep.
like
Nobody cares anymore.
taper out like it was the next thing. But like how that happened and like how that photo got onto their like national news in that country. And it was like literally, it was like Americans come to our country, hunt red book animals. They need to be prosecuted for this. If you see them, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, and I'm serious. Like when I got that message, when I saw it from the official Instagram account, they're like, we are putting your account on hold for 14 days just because of I was getting reported so much. They were reporting me, and that's what antis do.
The cancel
They'll
culture
tag
for sure.
they'll tag all their anti buddies in a comment
Mhm.
somewhere, and then they just go report your account. And that's what happened. And then it got reported so many times. They were just doing that out of basically a favor for me to be like, okay, we need to
Yeah.
like
We're gonna let you disappear
we're
for a
gonna
little
cut
bit.
this guy for a while, like because they see my stuff. Like, yeah, I'm a hunter and all that, but it's like nothing I do on there. All the photos are good. I respect the animals. Like, I don't sit over the animal and like hold the antlers or yeah, I don't do any of
Yeah,
that. Like, I respect the animals more than
for sure.
anybody, right?
For
So
sure.
anyway, that just from coming off COVID, the whole thing with Afghanistan, like wondering, are we gonna get there? And then we're in Kyrgyzstan, bordering those countries. Is Taliban, like you never know.
Mhm.
I went to Turkey in 2022 at the same time Russia invaded Ukraine.
Oh,
All this was happening. Of course, my mom's a common theme in all this because she's always worried. She's like, "Is this safe, honey?" I'm like, "I'm going to land in Istanbul. I'm going to take a small plane. I'm going to be in the middle of the mountains. Like,
mhm.
I'm 100%, comfortable with doing this." Well, the overnight we had in this little village town, it wasn't the night we stayed in the little house that I told you about where they
Yeah.
didn't have windows. We stayed in a hotel and then we drove to that. Um, Turkey got fled with Russians and Ukrainians. Because what happened is when Russia invaded, like Ukraine sits, like the Dead Sea sits here, Turkey sits here, Mediterranean. You got Russia and Ukraine,
Yep.
and Ukraine, part of Ukraine touches Turkey on the northwestern side. All these people fled into Turkey. So they were everywhere. There were Ukrainians. I mean, you can just tell, like, when you look at like kind of Russian people, they have that kind of that look, like they're like just in
Yeah,
the way they talk, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, Everywhere. And I was just kind of like, I mean, I think it's safe. Like, I mean, but nothing ever happened. But it was like, that was just another time where timing was like, you book these trips years in advance,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Then you're getting ready to go. And all of a sudden, this, what's been a Cold War for how long blows up.
Pops off.
And yeah. And then you got all these people dying. So it's just like, so that was, and the hunt was great, but that was just another example of like you can't make this stuff up,
No.
but like
No.
at the same time, unless it's super like concerning or like, national level, like Homeland Security threat super high, it's not going to stop me from going and doing this stuff, like,
I feel like the threat, the level of threat of getting killed or whatever, that's not what worries me. It's getting stuck. or put in jail for something, prison in some foreign country. Like
Yeah,
that's the scariest part to me
that
because
scares me
we're
too.
most of the time, I mean, you're in the mountains at 10, 15,000 foot elevation. Like what are you going to run? Even if you're running the Taliban, like they're not.
Yeah. Imagine if you had big gang activity in Boise. You land in Boise, get in a car, and you head north into the mountains.
Yeah.
You're not gonna
Yeah.
I try to relate that to people. Like
Mhm.
that's really what it is. Yeah, you land in these big cities. Your exposure is the time you land, get your bags, get in the car and drive. That
Just
could
like landing
be
in Johannesburg, you know? I mean, you probably landed there a
yeah.
thousand times.
I was just there in November.
Sketchy as shit. I mean, they got a guy sitting in the
The
truck just to
bribes.
watch the bags, and there's a guy sitting in the back. You like, they'll grab as soon as you leave. I mean, dude, it's nothing,
Right.
and
But it's that point in time
yeah,
that's your biggest exposure. And I don't know. I always tries to choose the outfitters very wisely. I always question, I've got kind of a vetting process I use. I've got a lot of people in industry that, hey man, I'm thinking about going here. Who would you recommend? Right.
yeah.
So always trying to be, I would say, as, careful as I can, but you just never know. I was in Mozambique. I talked a little bit about the buffalo hunt, but poachers. I mean, we run into poachers during my hunt. We run
How was
into
that?
illegal fishermen. Dude, it's like, what do you think about when you hear about poachers in Africa? Like, people are like out there shooting them, right? They're hunting poachers.
Mhm.
Like, anti-poaching units and operations, when you really get to understand them, it's actually not about hunting the poachers. It's actually about catching them and either giving them jobs to come and work for you and pay them because they're actually the best hunters.
Absolutely.
And some of the outfitters have figured out when they catch these poachers, they'll pay them to be guides and skinners so they're not out poaching
Mhm.
because I mean, there's no better hunters out there than guys that basically do it illegally for a living, right? As bad as
Yeah.
that sounds. So
Yeah.
there's actually it's like kind of like using terror against terrorism. It's like, it's not like if you can't beat them, join them. It's like use their own skills, to better you type of thing. Right.
Mhm.
So we're on this trail and we're looking for buffalo and they ride bicycles there. That's how they don't have much. I mean, people in Mozambique, I mean,
Yeah.
you probably saw it in Johannesburg and you've been to Africa, like those metro places, there's wealth. Outside of that, it is as third world as anywhere in the world. And it's always grounding to me because when I come home, I'm like,
Mhm.
I look at, I sit down and I got, food in the fridge. I got a phone. I got a car. Like these people don't have that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so grounding to do these trips. But, anyway, we're driving in the cruiser and my PH stops. He gets out and he's just frustrated because poachers push animals off these guys' concessions, right?
Mhm.
Fishermen push hippos and crocs out of the rivers. Well, they've got hunters coming, they're spending a lot of money to come to Africa to hunt, and they've got these guys illegally fishing, netting fish, and then basically selling them in the towns to make money.
Yeah.
They're pushing all the animals out of there, so it's a problem. It's a legit problem, and anyway, we're driving. We catch the bicycle track, we take it down, and we catch it, and then they ended up being actually guys they make boats out of tree bark, like canoes. It's amazing.
Really?
Yeah, I've got some videos. So one of our lead trackers had the guys come over, and they were illegal fishermen. They didn't have fishing licenses basically, but you could tell like they were blowing a lot of the animals out of the area. And I didn't know what to expect. Like, do these guys have guns? You don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I had a bow, like we had a 375 in the truck, but like I don't know what to expect. And, they basically end up checking their license is expired, and they're on basically private property because this is a concession that the government land technically owns, but the outfitter gets the ability to guide. And it's like his
Lease.
concession, right?
Yeah.
Mozambique's wild. There's no fences. Like that's what's cool about it. It is
As
as
wild
wild.
as it comes.
Yeah, you're driving and there's a lion sitting in the bush, like gets up and starts. Yeah, I mean, just that's Mozambique. But and I told my camera guy, I'm like, you need to like video this because like this is stuff that people don't realize what happens behind the scenes
Mhm.
of Americans come pay all this money and they don't realize the problem of poaching and illegal fishing there. So that was kind of just an interesting day. It ended up being a day deal where we kind of lost a day out of it, but
Ugh, that sucks.
yeah, because then they got to take these guys and detain them. They bring them into camp, and then somebody's got to drive them in. And all they do is they take them back into town, and they end up right back in there again.
Oh, for sure.
But my PH was telling me how what they've done, like I say, with some of the poachers is he pays them to work for him. So they're not out there poaching, and he gives them a reason to, because
Yeah.
these people are destitute. They'll do anything to shoot an animal, sell the meat, do whatever. Some of it's just for survival,
That and so okay, so this is where I've always been torn on the counter poaching stuff in Africa because obviously the rhinos, the elephants and things like that,
Yeah.
100%.
The ivory, right? That's
The
the
ivory,
value.
the ivory. But then they're catching these guys that have like a snared warthog, and this dude's just. I mean, I would be doing the same thing if I had to provide for my family.
Right.
There's no laws
100%.
when it comes to taking care of my wife and kids. There's no law that's
Right.
going to get in my way to be able to feed them.
Right.
So that's where it's like, I mean, are they real? I get it. It's poaching considered for them, but at the same time, they can't just go to the store.
Yeah.
They got to provide somehow.
don't,
So
like,
then,
yeah.
you're almost in like this torn situation where it's like, fuck, man, I get what the dude's doing, but like, where else do they have that opportunity? Because everything's leased up by these concessions.
That's it. Yeah. And that's honestly, you've hit it. Like he'll load them up. He'll drive them into town, tell them don't do that. They'll
Yeah.
tell the authorities don't do anything there. And if the problem is if they don't end up there, they'll end up somewhere else. And
Mhm.
I appreciate I've been working and doing some anti-poaching work now that I've got really interested in it. I'm working with a company over in Mozambique that does basically they're a complete anti-poaching operation. And I do a fundraiser where I'm helping fund some of the units there. But all it does is it doesn't stop the poaching. It just moves it.
Okay.
So like if this guy's got a problem, but he's spending a ton of money, boots on the ground, hiring guys on motorcycles to get them, they won't be on his concession, if you will. It just moves them somewhere else. It doesn't really stop it. It just essentially moves it somewhere else, so the hunting gets great where his place is, but it could get even worse where someone else can't patrol it. Someone doesn't have the money to patrol it.
What's the solution?
I don't know. I think a lot of it is, and I don't know how, even with it, I think a lot of it comes back to education, but how do you educate people that have never been in school, never lived their life at all with understanding anything about conservation, what the animal's use is for, like what it does, its life cycle. Like these people, it's strictly survival.
100%.
And
100%.
so I've learned since my trip. I've worked with there's an organization, Dal Safari. There's a gal, she's doing a PhD on anti-poaching in a certain area of Mozambique that I was actually near. And I'm working with her. I'm actually going to try to help fund some of her doctorate, but it'll be interesting to see because that's one of the things she talks about. It's one of those things that'll never go away. I think you just have to slow it down.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. Like, it's almost like gangs and cartel. Like you can deter it from one place, but that doesn't mean it's going to end. It's going to stop.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, it's stuff like that. I mean, when I flew to Argentina, 2007 was the first international trip I ever did. Went and did a stag and a bunch of stuff down in Argentina. And we got off the plane and everyone hunting down there in March is hunting birds. I mean, that's dove is like,
Why I went.
yeah, it's like the reason you go to Argentina. Well, me and my buddy are the only two that have big game rifles.
Hunters,
yeah, big game hunters. So they're all checking their shotguns, whatever. And then we show up with, our 270, 30-06. And we didn't have, like, we're in this interrogation room, military police, MPs got their fully autos and they're looking at our paperwork. We have all our stuff from, the US that shows caliber, blah, blah, blah. How many bullets do you have? Going through all that, visas, all the information. And they speak Portuguese in Argentina, which is like a Spanish dialect, but it's so fast. Like, I don't know what your experience was, but like, I was even having a hard time picking up on words.
Nothing.
Because they were speaking so, and this is 2007. I don't have, Translate on my phone, which now, like, I don't know if you knew this. This is like a cheat code. You can download different languages onto your Translate app, whether you have Google or whether you have an iPhone. So even when you're off, like, because usually they only would work when you have service.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can download the languages where if you don't have service, they'll still work. So anyway, pretty cool.
Okay.
Wish I would have had that back then. Didn't. Had a dictionary
Mm-hmm.
that would basically translate from English to Spanish. We are in there, sitting there, writing out with this basically the book was that thick, writing out like what we were doing because they didn't understand we weren't bird hunting. why do you have these high power,
Really?
high caliber rifles? You know, yeah. And then like in some countries like Mexico, if you bring a 5.56 or a
Oh yeah.
7.62, that's anything military, that's a huge problem.
Mm-mm.
So
Not
that's like a no-no. But like not knowing that, guys bring 223s or bring, 308s, which is basically the same
mm-hmm.
caliber and round, can become a problem. Anyway, ended up being where we ended up getting through, and we literally had to, like, we were in there an hour, like writing sentences from English to Spanish using this dictionary just to like tell them, hey, we're hunting big game. Here's our outfitter we're hunting with. Here's his name. Here's where his outfit's located. We had like the brochures we were showing them. And it was like talking to like a 3-year-old.
And the best part about that is whenever you're in these foreign countries, they never have an English translator.
Oh no. Oh no.
So you would think with how much travel that goes on, and I'm not saying it's required or they should have it,
Right.
but you would think they'd be like, man, we have a decent amount of guys that come through here from the United States or anywhere in the world that are
Right.
just English speaking.
Yep.
And this would make life so much easier. And
Oh,
you're sitting there like, you're like, bro, I don't know what you're saying. Like, what do you want from me? And it could be
no.
so
Yeah.
frustrating.
And that's like I say, it's kind of a rule now. Like anytime I land, it's like, okay, you're gonna have someone meet us right when we get a baggage claim. Cause
Yep.
once you get a baggage claim, you grab your rifle, then they take you in the room. The guy's there, he's got the, cause you got to get permits, all that stuff. They're going through all that. They're talking, they're
Mhm.
asking us questions. They typically can translate,
Yeah.
which is, oh my God, like makes life
You're in and out,
so much easier.
in and
But
out.
it's just like that was my first trip, and I learned so much from that. And then I went to Africa, and I've been to Africa 4 times now, and it's like you do these trips, and every
You
time
learn more
it's
and more.
about that like experience of learning. Like you just learn, and I get called a lot. Like, hey man, I saw your trip. I want to go do that. I'll call them up and spend 30 minutes. Like, hey, you need this, you need this, you need this. Make sure you do this. You need a visa if you leave the airport. Blah blah blah. It's like just all the things you figure out trial by error,
Yep.
and you fumble into it and
Yep.
realizing that you got to do that. So, yeah, I think I told you, but I think I've been, six continents. I haven't hunted, South, like Antarctica or anything, but I've been to over 30 countries that had something related to hunting. Early in my career, I got to spend a little bit of time in like Dubai and spent some time in UAE and, Oman, and which was just totally different. Like, that
Different
was at the
world.
time when Dubai was like growing. Like it wasn't, it was starting to become oil money, but there was like, it was kind of on the front end of that. And
Mhm.
we had some technology that we were doing in California that they were wanting to do with heavy oil. So there was some consulting stuff. So like that was my first real, like I would say introduction to like the world outside of North
Mhm.
America. And then
Mhm.
I was like 2007, went to a conservation organization, and, SCI, bought a hunt there. Next thing you know, we're in Argentina. And then it's just been like this
Snowballed ever
endless
since.
pursuit of, different places. And there are certain places I would go again. And there's certain places I'm like, okay, check the box.
Where is one country you would never go back to?
Um, that's a good question. Um,
What's your least favorite country you've ever been to?
Everything in South America was great. I love South America. I love Africa. Asia of any place. Um, I went to Greenland a couple of years ago, and was like, getting there was like shoot
Really?
me. Yeah, it was
I want to do Greenland. I want to take my wife to Greenland so bad because she is obsessed with the Aurora
Northern
Borealis.
Lights, yeah, which
I want to go
go
shoot
there
them.
for that,
I want to shoot a muskox and I
and
want to
go
shoot
there for
fox.
that.
I want to shoot foxes there.
For that, I mean but that's like one I wouldn't necessarily say I didn't like. I would probably never go again. Like
Okay.
I'd go to Turkey if I could hunt every year I'd go to Turkey and hunt ibex every, like, the coolest hunt in the world. Like Greenland, went and did it, check the box, like
Was it not that cool? I've heard mixed reviews about Greenland that it's kind of because I mean, let's be real, muskox isn't the most sporty animal. As soon as they know you're after, they just like turn and face you. And
I do a little bit. I mean, it was, I mean, we bow hunted, so it was
okay,
a
yeah,
bit
yeah,
more of a challenge.
yeah.
But
Yep.
like if you want to shoot a muskox, don't do it in NWT because it's logistically it's cold, it's 40 below, you're on snowmobiles. Like do it in Greenland.
Yeah.
It's like September in Idaho hunting. It's the place to go to do
Yeah.
that. It's definitely the place to go there, Iceland, to see the Northern Lights. Like
Okay.
every night, step out of your tent and you're looking up and you're like, wow, like really, like every night. We
It
did
is.
some time lapses that were just
They're unreal.
unbelievable. But it just like we did it. We did a film on it. The film was cool. Like everything was cool. I'm just kind of like, nah, that was all right, you
Yeah.
know. But like Asia, just like every time I go to Asia, and I've been to a lot of the different countries in Asia. And I'm going to be spending all of September in Mongolia this year. I've got
Please tell me
lined
you're
up into
doing an elk hunt there.
what's that?
Are you doing the elk hunt there?
Not
Really?
something about hunting wapiti or morale outside of North America. It doesn't like I don't know because I've been to Mongolia. I went 2 years ago and hunted both ibex there. So
I saw a video. Who the hell was it? I know you've probably seen it. They were hunting bulls there, and the forest was like yellow. All the leaves were yellow,
yeah, it's
and
beautiful
and
there.
it
I mean,
was, and then they shot the elk, and then they went and did two species of, maybe it was,
was it Pedro? Pedro Ampero. He does some pretty cool
is
films.
he the one that
Spanish.
went with his dad?
Yes. Yeah.
So I was actually, yeah, he was one of them, and he shot that
Yeah.
giant,
He does some really his cinematics and his videos are awesome.
top notch,
Yeah.
top notch. I might have been like Deanda's or whatever.
Okay.
It's somebody I know, but
Yeah.
what's maybe TJ out of Colorado?
TJ Sanchez. I mean, he actually hasn't hunted Mongolia. He needs to go to Mongolia.
Somebody, but yeah,
Yeah.
I watched that. I watched this video, and it was the most beautiful forest I have. And
Yeah.
bulls were screaming, and it was just like one of those things. Really, you wouldn't do it over there, huh?
I mean, I wouldn't say I wouldn't, but it's like I get so much of my fix at elk hunting here. Like
Yeah.
you're talking about, man, I don't want to grind anymore. Last year in September, I was 23 days straight hunting an elk in Montana. Like
yeah.
just it was a grind to the point of I took one evening off to take my mom to dinner, and I had a work call one morning. But other than that, it was day and night. I was out chasing elk, and I was pinching myself every day and every night because this was a tag. It took me many years to draw, 23 years, max points. It was literally a place where I grew up hunting as a kid, but never ever drew an elk tag there.
Yeah.
I draw the tag, and I'm just so like it was going to be big, or I was going to eat my tag, and I shot a good bull. But 23 days straight, like
That's rough.
and I was just, I mean, by the end of that, I was just like mentally, spiritually, emotionally, just like when that animal was down, like it just comes out of you.
Oh,
'Cause
for
you're
sure.
like, you're grinding, you're hiking, I mean, yeah, you're living like a homeless person after an animal that's, yeah, like screaming, telling you where it is all the time. And
Then you get in, especially bow hunting, and I explain bow hunting to people, is that you got to imagine 1,000 stars, and every one of those stars have to perfectly align for you to even get a shot off.
right. And then you got to have some luck on
Oh,
top of that.
a lot of luck.
Yeah.
And especially for archery, it's one of those things. It's like, so just because it's okay, cool, here it comes, it's on a string, and then it pink,
Yep.
or whatever.
Right as you let the arrow go, he turns, and yeah, the arrow goes.
Wind shifts, something,
Oh, it's
some fucking dude. I've had problems where like a llama, it was with you. This llama come running through this not after elk, but we were hunting turkeys, and dude, this thing's coming in on a string, and this llama from nowhere, we don't even know where this thing came from, comes like screaming through where we're at, chasing these turkeys, and we're all like looking at each other. Got it all on video. We're dying laughing, like,
right.
what the fuck is a llama doing out
Right.
here? But it's
Right.
just one of those things. Like, that's hunting. But
Right.
yeah, it's interesting for sure. I didn't mean to go off topic of Mongolia, but yeah,
No, it's just, I mean, Asia is just like one of those countries. Like I could go every year. Like I haven't been to Pakistan, and that's on my list to go and hunt there. There's a lot of threats there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just in conjunction of where it sits. Like it's kind of like, you know, I mean, when you think about like Syria, I hunted on the eastern side of Turkey my first time. We were right on the border of Syria, and there was a lot of stuff happening on that part of the world, right? Jerusalem. I mean, all that stuff is right there. And, you know, it's like I would, some things I would probably do and I would choose differently where I went, but it still wouldn't stop me from, hell yeah, I want to go do that, you know?
For
like,
sure.
Russia is on the list. Hunting brown bear and moose is not out of a helicopter, but I may get the opportunity. Actually had an opportunity to do that. Had a guy call me and say, hey, I literally had a last minute slash price. Can you go? Like, can you be gone in a week? And it was like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, well, I'm here. I'm going to see my family in Montana next week. We're going to spend Easter together. Like I got all the stuff lined up. I'm like, I can't do it. Like I'd love to, but so that one's on the list. But I've been a little resistant to Russia. They started allowing visas 2 years ago. Guys are going there and hunting, but that's still kind of one of those places that wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
You're an American in a Russian prison and you're held hostage, and that stuff happens. I mean, how many
Yep.
Americans, how many military people have been held hostage in countries, you know, for how many years
Yeah.
before we get them out, or God,
Mhm.
whatever happens. Like,
Mhm.
so there's always that threat, but then it's like I could be driving home and someone, T-bones me. I mean, it's like, live your life, right? I mean, do
That's
the
where, yeah.
things that make you happy. And if you're
Yep.
thrill seeking, I mean, I'm not going to go bungee jumping or jump out of an airplane, but I'm going to go do cool shit like
Yeah.
chase animals up the side of a mountain. And,
Yeah.
like it's just kind of one of those things.
What's your favorite animal? If you, okay, here's the $1 million question. As an avid outdoorsman like yourself, if you could hunt one animal the rest of your life, what would it be?
It's elk, man. I'm telling you, I
Really?
love elk hunting.
I was not expecting that.
Born and raised in Montana, like, mule deer, I love mule deer. I'm looking at your mule deer, like just I love mule deer. Like mule deer just do something to a guy. Like
Mm-hmm.
more guys do dumb shit hunting mule deer than any other species. Like
I'll push some lines.
it's like mule deer just make people make bad decisions because mule deer are just they're like the quintessential. To think something lives as far as Alberta and as far south as the Baja of Mexico, like in everywhere in between, that
Mm-hmm.
animal thrives. Like it's amazing the story of and really the conservation story of mule deer. But now elk are elk in September are like I mean, if I could only do that the rest of my life and I couldn't hunt for 10 months out of the year, but hunt for 2 months of elk, like I'd probably be a happy man,
Yeah.
you know?
It's an incredible experience. I mean, to see it's, I mean, besides like I think turkey, maybe a couple others, it's one of the only animals that you can actually communicate with
Right.
and have a conversation
If you want to, or not,
or not,
let them talk and let them mess up. And
slip
then,
in and
yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of
exactly.
always been my tactic. People ask, man, how do you kill elk? It's like, they're telling you where they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're screaming, bull's bugling or a cow's calling, like get in tight and then maybe have a little chatter with them. But
Mm-hmm.
some of these, it's funny because everyone's tactics different. And I like to learn new things. Like guys bugle, 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 bugle. And it's like, it can work,
Yeah.
but like, I don't like giving up my location, but
Yep.
it's a tactic. But no, I think elk would, I've really got on the ibex bug. I've shot ibex, 8 ibex in the last 4 or 5 years. And
Yeah.
I've just gotten like super interested in that species.
Yeah.
Like I'm not chasing anything. I'm not chasing, achievements or awards. Like, when I shot in Kyrgyzstan, SCI Records reached out to me. They're like, "Can you bring this to the convention? We think it could be in the top 10, maybe top 5." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care."
Yeah.
Like
And that's what it's about.
the horns are sitting in my house, not mounted. Like they're sitting there, skull on the floor. I'm like, that's cool. Like one day I will get it mounted and
Yeah.
like taxidermy, whatever. But like it's just not like
Yeah.
not about that. Not about the meat. It's like I want to go experience cool shit,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like so. But elk, elk do it for me. And I'll say one cool thing about California. There ain't much about it that's cool, but one cool thing is I can start hunting elk in July in California,
Wild.
and then I'm literally hunting them till December in California. And then in between that, I can hunt, Rocky Mountain in Montana, or if I draw a tag. So I'm literally elk hunting from July till December off and on.
Damn. I never even
Because
thought
we
of it
got
like that.
our archery season opens in July. That's when they rut. So we're like a month
Are
forward.
you hunting Thule's?
Tules.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the late season rifle stuff is in December. So I'm a guide in California. So I usually book a couple guys a year, take them on their once in a lifetime elk hunt. So I've never killed a Thule, but I've seen 30 or 40 of them die in front of my own eyes with people that,
Mm-hmm.
I've drawn the tag. So I just there's something about elk that I just, that animal just it does it for me.
Yeah.
Like, some people are everyone in the West, it's mule deer, and you ask them that question. If I could only hunt one thing, it's mule deer. I freaking love hunting mule deer, but elk are just, I don't know. And they taste good. It's hard to beat a good elk tenderloin. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it'd probably be elk.
I'd say mine's probably bears. Bears or elk.
Yeah.
I love bears. I just obsess over them. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I just when a giant bear steps out, you're just like,
Predators are, there's something about predators, bears, dogs,
especially when you
lions.
can get close.
You know,
You
it's
get
like,
that close and get inside of a predator's bed, like their own kitchen, and they have no idea you're there, and you could slip in, and
exactly.
that to
Like
me is that to me is awesome.
it is. I mean, lions do that for me. I haven't done a lot of bear hunting. I did one hunt on Kodiak, and it was a 10-day deal. Didn't shoot a bear. I was a bow hunt and was supposed to go back. Never went back. I've shot a few black bears. Like never really got the bear bug,
Yeah.
but cats, yeah, cats definitely do it. I've never shot a wolf. It's probably top 2 or 3 on my list right now. It
Okay.
just, but my thing is like, I don't really want to like pay a bunch of money, go to Alberta, sit over bait and shoot a wolf. Like
No.
I want to be in the deep forest of Idaho and hear one, howling and come across it and like literally shoot it in its own habitat. Like that's how I want to hunt a wolf. Like,
I need to get you connected. Do you know Luke Sterling?
oh yeah.
Sterling your
Yeah.
Strother?
I know who he is. I don't
Okay.
know him,
He's
but
a good buddy of mine. And
I know that dude, he levels them. Yeah. I see his social media stuff. It's crazy. Yeah.
he
So it's like,
doubled up with his son a couple years ago.
really?
Wolves, yeah. Called a
Yeah.
whole pack in. His son dumped one. He grabbed the gun from his son and then he shot one. It went over this little bank and yeah, he
Have
got,
you ever been out in the forest and heard one that roar, just that low?
I don't think people understand how, at least for me, the first time I heard it, it's the eeriest sound.
It is like the first time I heard it was actually in Idaho. At the time, I was married before my brother-in-law. They're from here, and we went up and we went above Lucky Peaks Lake and some spots up there, and I heard that first howl, and it like, I've had been hunting for 20 years, Montana, like never seen one in the wild. Heard the howl. 20 minutes later, ended up seeing one. It had killed an elk and was eating on the elk, but it was like eerie. And then last year got onto a couple different wolves. It wasn't during season, but there was a like an alpha male black and then like a silver tip one with it, 600-700 yards away. And I was just videoing them, phone scoping them, and sent it to a couple buddies. And they're like, "I was waiting for the gunshot. Like, what do you do?" I'm like, "Well, it wasn't season." But there's something about wolves though that just like
Make your hair stand on the back of your neck.
100%. Like they're just, I don't know. It's like, it's just the whole predator thing. And predators have a stigma of, oh, it's a dog. Oh, the bear, like,
God.
or the lion stuff. Oh, it's a cat. Like, how could you do that? It's like these animals, they're leveling. Like, and I think of lions in California. It's a great example. I mean, our deer populations have absolutely tanked over the years because when they stopped the ban, or they put the ban on lion hunting in the 80s, 90s in California, lions have just taken over everywhere. I mean, they're in people's backyards, they're eating people's pets.
Yeah.
Bears are getting out of hand in California, and they stopped the use of dogs in California years ago. Well, they've never hit quotas since then, and bears are going to continue to procreate, and if they're not, like a bear, it's like a pig. I mean, they can live to be 10, 15 years old,
But
like an old boar.
I mean, I have a buddy that killed one, and I think they aged it like 20 years old or 19 years old.
No surprise. Like, so you got an animal that probably within 15 years of its life is procreating every year,
putting out 2 to 3 cubs at that age.
every year, right? So anyway, predators, that's a whole other conversation because that hits a bone with a lot of people differently because of
any Disney character, any Disney animal, don't even post it.
Right. And I know a lot of guys that don't, like, they're avid predator hunters and, they run dogs, they treat cats, all that and whatever, but it's like they don't have a big presence on social media because of that. Like the hate community is just, it's out there.
I think the worst thing for like the predator community, especially hound hunters, I get it. I completely get it. You put in all this work with your dogs, you're running them all season, dry running them.
Right.
Season finally opens up. We don't have to post a video of your cat or the bear falling out of the tree and just smacking branches. I get it.
Dogs just
dogs stretching this thing out. Like, I get it. It's that you feel rewarded because your dogs just did everything that you trained them for that moment.
Right.
But it's, bro, I see these videos and I'm like, oh my God. Like, even for me, I'm like, why? Does that have to be out there?
We, the hunting community, are our own worst enemies.
100%.
Like
100%.
that stuff gets out there, and that's the stuff
that's all
that
they
people see.
That's all they see.
Yeah. It's not the you talked about the ethical side, and you know, you don't want the animal to suffer. Like that, a lot of times that story is not told either, or, you know, just the moral principles of what hunting is. Like, no, it's that gets put on a platform,
That's what gets the
you know,
views.
or the animal's still alive and it's suffering, and that people post that, and people want to like in today's age. And yeah, and that's what gets, you know, pushed across all the platforms and gives what we want to do and love to do such a bad name, you know. But we are truly, in most respects, even the conservation organizations, I support them. I do all the shows with the company I work with. I love supporting the conservation stuff, but all they want to do is tear each other down, you know. They rah the animal. Oh, we're putting more animals back on the mountain, but at the same time, they're trying to tear the other one, next one down. And it's like, guys, like, we need to unite on these fronts, because the antis are going after this one and this one differently, and they're smart enough to know now how to go at certain things to get certain, like Colorado's going crazy right now, right? Banning lion hunting. I mean, they're like on the path of California, but like they're figuring out ways to get legislation passed that they're sliding it into certain things, or wording it certain ways that people don't realize. The next thing you know, oh, you can't hunt lions anymore. Right. Fortunately, there's been unified fronts with these organizations. Bear hunting in California, that was on the docket 4 years ago, right? It's like, if we stop bear hunting in California, like the population has doubled in the last 10 years. Like that's proven science. Like they actually finally use science and biology to look at,
Imagine that.
Yeah, right. Not emotion. And they're finding that, okay, like they're talking about reinstating the use of dogs again in California for bears, like going the other way.
Yeah.
That never happens.
I feel they're going to have to eventually for mountain lions. I mean, I have a buddy that was a canine unit in California. A mountain lion came out of the foothills, he was 4 streets in, so 4 blocks in from where he was at, and his service canine was in a kennel out back, but those tall ones that don't have a top on it.
Right.
Mountain lion went in and ate the whole entire gut, everything. Killed this dog, canine dog, and comes home and goes out to let his dog out, and it's
eviscerated.
I have pictures. I'm sure he could send me pictures, but done.
Yeah.
From a mountain lion. And it's like, holy shit, if that mountain lion's willing to do that, like, good luck leaving your little foo-foo dog in the backyard. It's gonna be a snake. Now you look at these coyotes. They're just running the streets broad daylight in some of these neighborhoods.
They can be, I mean, a pack of coyotes can easily take down a fawn. I mean, bucks that get older and after a rut season, I mean,
week,
yeah, but 3 or 4 coyotes, a pack of coyotes, that buck's done.
Easy.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, it is truly, I mean, survival for these animals, and predators eat other animals. I mean, I get the circle of life, you know, better than anybody. Like, but I also think they need to be managed too.
For sure.
It's like, we manage the heck out of whitetail. We manage the heck out of mule deer. You know, we've got great stories to tell. You know, bison, North American bison, we're almost extinct in this country. And now look at how they're thriving. Tule elk in California is another great example of a conservation success. But predators need to be managed too.
For sure.
But it's such a touchy
emotion,
feely. It's all emotions, you know. And the one good thing though is some states are becoming more, I would say, open about the science and the biology around what these animals, they're putting collars on them. They're using telemetry to see what their range is, where they're going. You know, wolves can move, you know, hundreds of miles. Grizzly bears come out of Glacier Park and they end up in the Big Hole of Montana. And they cross major interstates to do that. Yellowstone, I mean, it's insane where these grizzly bears go and how far they go. They've got them from the Yellowstone that have been tracked and collared into central Montana.
Yeah.
Mountains and major highways and freeways, and, you know, and the same thing.
With an ease too.
Yeah.
And then they'll just go right back. They just do a loop right back.
I know, it's insane. Like I know I need to get back to here because that sow's going to be in heat and
at this time.
But they're traveling, trying to find that. I mean, it's bizarre when you really look at how and I think of like elk in California, they have the best life in the world. They don't have to migrate. They don't have to go anywhere. They probably live geographically within 10 miles their whole life. Whereas elk in Wyoming, they could move up to 400 or 500 miles, you know, just to migrate out of an area so they can survive, you know, or Montana, but it's like, when you think of these animals in North America, I think of mule deer. It's like the perfect example of something that lives in Alberta where it's cold as hell. in the States, and then in the Baja, California, where it's 100 and some degrees and thrives. Like, it's just, animals are so resilient, and
They
they
are.
just adapt to, their environment.
Yep,
That's just
absolutely.
what they do. So anyway, yeah, I could go on, man, but yeah, it's
What's the wildest adventure that you've ever been on? Like, have you had any near death experiences hunting? Any close calls?
um nothing like, I would say, like, came charging at me, or my buffalo hunt got a little western. Hit my buffalo, ran off. Um, Thought he was. I mean, I hit him in the heart. I had made a really good shot on him, and spun around. Two other bulls came, hit him from the front. Hit him like, animals know when, like, the boss, or the
Hit.
the herd bull has been hit, or he's
Mhm.
he's hurt. So they started moving him around, and my PH had a 470 double. That's like between 375. Or a 458, or a 470. And anyway, the thing ended up inadvertently going off. Like, there was just kind of a bit of a shit show that happened, but that wasn't like a near death experience. But when you hunt like buffalo, like when you hunt an animal that, I mean, it could trample you or eat you in a matter of seconds. Like, we were driving, this is Mozambique, and this is wild. We're driving, and my PH stops, and the trackers on top, they start tapping the top of the truck, and we look over to our right, and they start talking in their language, and will end up being like a 5-year-old lion was sitting in the grass. But I mean, I'm sitting there, binoculars, like, where are you guys looking? And it's like, right here in the grass. And I'm looking, I'm like, I can't see him. All of a sudden, you see him just move his head enough. When they get in that grass, it is incredible how a male lion can just, I mean, camouflage. So he goes, check this out. He connects his phone to Bluetooth, and he has a speaker on the truck, like an external speaker, and he starts like a male, like a male charge, like that's like this sound that males
Yeah.
do, like before they're getting ready to, like, so he plays that, the male gets up, and then he does it back to us, and he just starts growling at
Which you
us.
can feel.
And I'm just like, so we were outside of the truck. I get in the truck, and my Peach's wife, she's like, get ready. Like, cause he was probably still 100 yards, but he said probably 2 to 3 seconds he would be at us, like, if he wanted to charge. So then we get back in the truck, he's going, we drive. And one thing about African PHs, and you may experience this, they're pretty cocky. Like, oh, he grabs his 470, starts walking out to, he's like, come on. So I get out of the truck, and I'm kind of walking. The lion stops, and he starts slapping his tail on the ground. Like, I mean, like a slap that would be like, if you took a towel and
Yeah.
like a slap that hard hitting the ground. And I'm like, no, I'm good. So I come walking back, but never obviously charged us. But
Hmm.
like, that animal is so powerful.
Oh, and they're
Like,
so big, you don't realize how big they are.
and like, even leopards, like, I hunted a leopard, and that was like, that was a, like, super interesting experience, because, leopards, guys can run them with dogs, but like, they bait them a lot of times in
Yeah.
Mozambique, and you're hunting them at night, because that's when they come in. Shooting a leopard during the day, it can be done, but it's pretty uncommon that they find them during the day. But you get this cat that gets up in this tree and starts eating a baboon, and this is like the best predator hunter in the world. Like, you've seen like videos where jaguars jump out of like things, grab a freaking big old croc or whatever, and like pull it up and like pull it into a tree. And it's like,
Mhm.
still like, the animals are just, it's so impressive. Like, leopards are like the most impressive animal. Like, seeing them alive in the wild, it's, I mean, it's like hearing a wolf howling. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, and they like grab on to the baboon's arm, and like one bite, and it's literally snaps the arm. Like, their jaws
Really?
are so stinking strong. Like, so anyway, shoot this leopard.
How many nights did you sit?
I sat 5 nights.
Oh, you got lucky.
I got lucky. I mean, everyone I talk to, they're like, be prepared to go back, right? I mean, you're gonna
Yeah.
leopard hunt, like,
Sat for 14 days.
yep, sat 14 days, nothing on bait. Well, we had like 5 baits out, and 5 or 6 baits, and like 3 of the baits were all getting hit. Well, this the cat that I ended up shooting, it was with a female, and they were a mating herd. Well, the problem is it's really hard to tell the difference in a male and a female,
Okay.
and you don't want to shoot a female. That's a problem. right? Especially because it's against the law. So there was always these two moving around, and one would get up, would eat some of the baboon or the water buck, come down. The other one would get up. Well, really, the only way you can tell is you just see their nuts. Like you got to get the right angle,
Yeah.
and to tell whether or not like it's got nuts. You can also kind of tell like the way their heads are shaped. Like toms are shaped a little bit differently than the females. Anyway, the male's in the tree, and he's literally just hammering this baboon, and we're looking, and Pete's like, oh, it's the female. So we, like my heart rate goes back down. All of a sudden, we pull up their phone, and I start looking, and there's trail cameras he has on the tree, because when we're not there at night, if we're not sitting that one, we want to know, is a male coming in,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we start looking at the trail camera photos, and we start looking, and okay, we're looking at this male. Their spots are called rosettes.
Okay.
And there was this one distinct rosette on the male on its left side. Actually, it was on its right side because he was turned. It was on its right side. It was this little distinct rosette that basically gave him away from any other cat we were looking
Just
at.
stood out.
We're sitting there. And you're on him. Well, you have a green light on him, right? So I'm just sitting there, and I'm like looking at this thing, and look back on my phone, and my pH is right behind me. And the drill was, if he clinches me twice, it's the male. Shoot, right? So we're looking and pull up my phone. He had the pictures too. He's looking at his phone. He grabs my binoculars, looks. I mean, normally the cats will come eat for 5-10 minutes, leave the tree, come back. So he's been on this bait for like 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
He's just like, shoot that fucking cat. And I'm just like, so I'm like already like, I'm calm, right? Okay, it's the female. And right now I'm getting like the hair sticking up on my hands because it was like 0 to 160 miles an hour. Like, okay, it's the male. I got to pull the shot off, right? Shoot the cat, goes up in the tree, hits the ground. My camera guy got on video, so we're able to watch. Like everything looked good. Hits the ground, rustles, and that deep growl that those cats do, like it was him. It was his death growl, but
Yeah.
we didn't know. There were 5 of us in the blind. Me, my PH, his wife, and 2 camera guys. We let it sit an hour. We get out. The rest of the crew comes because we had radios. We radioed them. 10 guys showed. 15 people were walking up. You've probably heard horror stories of wounded leopards.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And basically what my PH, and he was like educating us. He's like, looks like a good shot, but wounded leopard is probably the worst animal other than a Cape buffalo to go in on, right? Or like a lion, but a leopard is, they're in the top 2 to 3 like worst wounded animals. So we're walking up, and I'm just like, I'm not like freaking out. I know I made a good shot, but you never know, right? You just
It's always in the
nick
back of your head.
something, or did you only get one lung? Like you're always wondering. And here I am, and I've got my bow, right? And then everyone else is there, and they've got a 375. He's got his 470. So we've got, and then the other tracker had a 9mm. So I felt like, okay, but he told me, he goes, a wounded leopard will just pick one. Like he's not going to jump, and he's just going to like wipe everyone out. If he's wounded and he's sitting there and we're coming at him, he's going to pick one person, and that's who he's going to go after. And what they'll do is they'll run, and they'll jump. They'll try to grab you by the head. Their feet and their claws will get you in their stomach, and they'll just tear, and they'll try to tear your intestines out. And then their hands will wrap around you on the back, and they'll just pull you in, and then they take their feet and they just start clawing. I only know that because one of the skinners he was a part of the bite club. Well, the leopard grabbed his arm and then caught up and then got one swipe and basically cut him open. Now, a lot of times people die from the infection. It's not like from the wounds of like, the actual, what the animal does, but, cat ended up being dead there. It was perfect shot. He was dead. So I was like the biggest sigh of relief of my life. But like that minute of us getting out of the blind and walking up to where we thought he was, like it's dark. It's
you
like
don't know.
11 o'clock at night. We all got flashlights. Like, yeah. And it's like, I got this line of guys, like, it's probably not going to be me, but who in this group of 10, like Rochambeau, like who's it going to be if this thing's still alive? That's going to come. And so anyway, it was just like, that was wild. Mm-hmm. That whole thing. Like,
I bet it was a good cat too. I saw this picture.
Yeah. Really good cat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was like a 7-8-year-old mature male. Yeah. So,
dude, we were when I was in Africa, we were hunting, and we're in this dry creek bed, and I didn't know I had this obsession for baboons. Did never even in a million years that I even consider I'd ever
Dude, me
give a
too.
shit about baboons. And
I'm with you.
I would book a trip to Africa just to hunt baboons. It's interesting, right?
Primates are weird. Like, not to cut you off, but like, there's something about baboons. Like,
I'm not trying to sound sadistic, but it's almost like hunting a person in a way because what drew me to this, and I know I'm probably gonna catch shit for that, but there's this giant baboon and there's this pole, like it was like a tree, but it didn't have any branches on it, but it was cut off. And it's behind it. And the PH, my buddy, he's like, "Man, shoot that baboon, shoot the baboon." So we get the right angle, and I put the sticks out, and I get on it, and this thing literally like behind the pole,
pulls his head out.
and the whole body pushes
Oh,
whole. It just got every time I drew on this baboon, it would just. So we go back to the other side because now it's looking at me from over here. So then we go back to this, and then it moves back again, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I've never had something like counter me before
right. Like, know that's he's like very, very alert of what's going on.
onto me.
Right.
And so he finally takes off and it meets up with its troop, and we're in this dry creek bed, and these baboons come running across. And my buddy's like, get ready. I'll tell you which one to shoot. You want to shoot the big alpha? And I'm like, yeah, let's wait for that. Well, I see these baboons, and this one baboon runs, goes down in the dry creek bed, and goes up on the other side. So now we're in the creek bed, and there's one on the other side, and then a second baboon goes in the middle, and then a third baboon's on. So there's two on the top of the creek bed, and there's one down in the middle. And he's like, get ready, they're gonna all start coming. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, those are the like security for them. I'm like, what? So then all the females, the young ones, little ones, adolescents, they all start running behind these baboons. And then the one on the top goes down and relieves the one in the bottom. It was almost militaristic in a way. Like they were like relieving
Working
each
together.
other
Yeah.
as they were, but providing protection in a way. And then this big, just giant alpha just comes. You know how they have a swag to them.
Oh, yeah.
They don't just walk, like they strut.
Yeah.
And he's like, holy fuck, man, shoot it. Like that's the one. And nothing was ready. I'm trying. And so I just freehanded this thing. And it's like 200 yards out. And I just held my breath. As soon as my crosshairs touched it, I let one rip. And I hit this baboon dead perfect. And
Yeah.
it just sits down on its ass. It grabs its where I hit it. And it
Yep.
lets out this scream and it takes off over the hill. He's like, oh, fuck, man, it's not good. It's not good. I'm like, what's not good? I hammered that thing. He's like, no, it's not good. Like, we need to get more guns. Like, it's just my buddy and I. So we go get the help, and these dudes come out, and a couple guys got these ancient old rifles. He's like, listen, if this thing is still alive, you got to stand your ground because if you run and it grabs you, he's like, it's almost as bad as a leopard. Like, once a baboon has you,
They're so strong.
they're not letting go.
They're so strong. They don't even know their own strength. It's like
Yeah.
apes. I mean,
Yeah.
they're same deal.
So we come walking out of this riverbank. It was like some SEAL team coming out of the water, right? Like I got my rifle and I got all these like trackers with guns, which I don't trust at all. And I got one PH and some dude's got a spear, another guy's got a rock and a log. Like I'm like, this is
Yeah.
a shit show. And he's like, whatever you do, don't run. We got to shoot this thing. So we come out of the creek bed and this baboon had like died and or laid down in this like dip. So you could just barely see it. And we're like, there it is. So we're all sneaking up and we get to like 30 yards of this thing.
Still alive.
This baboon goes, like let out like its last breath. Every motherfucker runs.
Really?
And I'm the only one. I draw down on this thing and it doesn't get up. And I'm watching it.
Yeah. You're
I'm
waiting.
looking around like, you motherfuckers. Like everybody
Everybody
took off running because they thought it was getting up.
So much for safety and protection.
Yeah, right. I was like, and my buddy's like, my bad, man. I thought it was coming. I'm like,
Oh
dude.
my God.
And so, but we were laughing about it. And, but I couldn't believe the size. I couldn't even pick that thing up. Like I did a picture and I literally like held it for like 2 seconds and then had to put it down because of how massive it was. But that moment struck something in me that I obsess. I ruined a kudu hunt because we could hear these baboons coming and they're barking. You know how they bark and
They
Yeah.
talk to each other.
I look at my buddy and I'm bow hunting and I'm like, what is that? Those are monkeys, right? And he's like, yeah, it's baboons. Don't worry about it. Like there's giant kudu in this area. So what had happened was this guy works with this orange juice factory or whatever. So they bring the pulp, but in the wintertime and they dump these oranges. It's not really to hunt off, but it's like a substance for these animals.
Right.
But he's like, dude, we're going to take advantage of this because it doesn't happen very often. So
Right.
we're going to go. And the guy said the ranch owner said there's giant kudu in here. I'm like, cool. So we're sitting in this blind. We actually chopped this blind in, put a little makeshift pop-up blind, and like this. I don't even know if they were hunting this concession. We just literally rolled in. My guide made phone calls, and we roll in. But anyways, these monkeys come in, and then they're all eating these oranges, and I'm like, oh, dude, like I'm gonna shoot one. He's like, you're not shooting a baboon, Bam. I'm like, no, like we're gonna shoot a giant kudu. I'm like, no, I'm fucking shooting a baboon. He's like, no, I'm not. And like, we're arguing, and I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, I'm shooting a baboon. He's like, no, I'm telling you, we're not shooting a baboon. And then this giant, I mean, he had like gray face on him, comes strutting in.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the wildest thing for me. This baboon literally goes up behind this female, stands on her hind heels, grabs her, looks dead at us, like turns.
Like he knows you're there.
Those were there, and just starts humping this baboon. And I'm like, I'm fucking shooting this thing. He's like, you're not. We're fighting in this blind, like back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, give me your gun. He's like, I'm not giving you my gun because it was at a bow range.
Yeah.
And I'm like, give me your gun. And he's like, I'm not giving you. I'm like, bro, I'm shooting this baboon. He's like, you're seriously going to ruin this hunt over a baboon? I'm like, 100%.
Yeah.
And I hit that baboon and they take off and they run. We give it a little bit, and you could see them like a couple 100 yards out, and there's just baboons, and they're all screaming, they're going crazy. And he's like, all right, let's go find it. We gave it a little bit. He's like, well, this hunt's ruined now. Like, let's go find him. I'm like, cool. So we were sneaking through, and we come around this corner, and the baboon is standing on the ground. Well, we thought he tried to climb a tree, but he got weak and he fell, and it's like wrist got caught in like a crotch of a tree, right? So it's like feet are on the ground, but it's kind of like stuck. This thing looks and sees us, and it's like, and like screams, is like reaching for us, but we're probably 60 yards away. And I was like, what do we do? What do we do? And he's like, I don't know what we do.
Hammer him.
So he's like, let's back out of here. So we back out, we give it a few minutes, and then the whole troop just erupts. They go crazy. He's like, it just died. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, they're nuts. They know it just died. And he's like, let's go see it. Dude, this thing's fangs were worn down, ancient. He's like, this is the oldest baboon I have ever put my hands on. It was just, but yeah, after that, dude, I was like, every baboon, stop the truck.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about Mozambique is all the bait for leopards love baboons. So
I would go.
We just go out, and I'd like my camera guy with me. I said, dude, you're shooting all the bait on this trip. Water buck. We were hammering baboons, but they're smaller. They're South Africa. They're genetic morphs there.
Humans.
They're not as big in Mozambique, but yeah, you can hammer them for bait. But I shot one in South Africa. This is a weird story. It was in a cotton area. Well, it was a cotton field, and the workers there were picking cotton, but they also planted tomatoes there, and they had same thing. Like they had like tomatoes that were sour or whatever, and they piled them up. Well, like a month before I got there, at this area that our PH had access to, this lady was picking cotton and had her baby out, like in a manger, out in the field picking cotton.
Smash it up.
Male baboon comes in, grabs the baby, and gone. Like, took it, bit it in the head, and ran off.
No shit.
So I was like, so I shoot a big male there, and I don't know if it was you'll never know, right? If it was the one, but when we came back through and stopped, and the family came out and saw that there was a dead male baboon, they were like, the lady was crying, and it was this whole thing. And I shot it with a bow. It was eating tomatoes, but like he came in and had a female with him, and he was a big male, like said, just like humanly weird. I got a picture sitting next to him, and it's like not a whole lot much smaller than me.
And their hands have fingerprints.
That
was trippy for me.
It's weird.
It was trippy. I was looking at him like it was just, it's a human hand.
Yeah,
it's
100%. Like,
it is interesting.
I don't like mythology and like all that, like way back. I don't, I'm fairly religious, but like I whether that like stuff happened or not, or where we originated, like I don't know, and I don't really care. But when you hunt animals like that and you see them and you're like,
when they're able to counter your move,
okay, I kind of could see a few things here that are.
There's a lot of. I'm with you. Very religious. I don't believe in evolution. I believe that there's evolution, that animals evolve.
Right.
I don't believe we came from some blobs. Anyways,
Yeah.
but when you put your hands on a baboon and you watch them, you're like, there's a lot of similarities
Yeah.
here.
There's a lot going on here. That's just like kind of weird, crazy. Like, wow. Okay.
This is a little
This is probably the
creepy.
closest thing I'll ever do to be like shooting a two-legged animal versus like a four-legged animal. So like, yeah, baboons are cool though.
What's your most memorable trip? Is there one that stands out about you that you wish you could do again?
Um, Probably the most memorable trip was it'd have been an elk hunt with my dad. My dad passed in 2001. It was actually 9/11, damn near to the day. It was just kind of a weird, crazy thing. Had cancer, but he was really like when I think about like why and how, it's like it was him. Like it's how we live. Like my dad was even the extent like when we were kids, like if we hit a deer on the road, he'd throw it in the back of the truck,
Oh, for sure.
take it home, skin it, and we ate it, like
For
it's just
sure.
like nothing ever went to waste. So like I'd done an elk hunt with my dad, kind of in central Montana, and it was like one of our last like hunts together before he got really sick, and then when he got his cancer, I mean, we should have got him better care and we didn't. It's just one of those things. Like anyone can look back on anything, and armchair quarterback, but we did an elk hunt together and we shot cows, and it wasn't like we went and shot these big bulls, but it's just kind of one of those things. Like that hunt from then on, there's not a day one, but there's not a trip that I go on where I'm anywhere that I don't think about him, and it's more of wishing, and like I know he's with me, like, oh yeah, he's with you, people say that, and he is, right? But like truly, like some of this cool stuff I get to do, I would love to be able to take him with me, like,
sure.
Dad, you and I are going to hunt in Turkey, or we're going to, we're going to Argentina, or, or been to New Zealand and done that whole thing. And like, he would have never been able to afford and have the means to do that because we didn't have a lot as kids, but I would have found a way to do that stuff with him. But I was in college when he passed, and never got to really experience a lot of life after school and growing up when he passed. But it'd be those memories with him. I mean, I've done some cool stuff and got to do some really cool things, but nothing replaces the time I had, certain memories of being with him. I mean, chasing antelope on a sage field doing 60 miles an hour in an old two-wheel drive truck, and just, you know what I mean? Those types of things that, like,
You girls have been there.
yeah, I mean, you can't replicate it. And B, like, those are things that you just, you don't ever forget,
Oh my! I have I think about my old man, and God, we were big waterfowl hunters growing up. Growing up on the Canadian border, upstate New York, and hunting big water.
Sure.
And it's just I mean, God, the stories that we had growing up as kids out there, just learning, and
Right.
my
Well,
God,
and think about back in the day when we were kids, there wasn't social media, there wasn't Onyx. So like you would go to the hardware store and get like a paper tag. Like that's where you bought it. You didn't apply in the state. They have all your information. They sent, like, it was so different.
Stamp from the post office, and then you had to go down to Ace Hardware,
right?
Or we had Racks, which is like a furniture shop, and they'd print you out your permit or your tag or whatever. Yeah,
such different times, and I mean, just like game wardens, like everything then was so different.
Game
whereas
wardens
now,
were kind of cool, and you bullshit with them.
Now you can't do anything without someone, knowing where, or you post a photo. Oh, I know where that is. Like, it's just, there's so much of that now. But like back then, you think back, like, man, there's days I wish we could just go back to
every day
life without all this distraction in life, and just enjoy, the things that brought us joy as kids.
Trying to not glamorize everything. We were just doing it because we needed to put duck in the freezer, like it was ours,
Yeah.
I'd shot a couple whitetails. Like, my dad was not a whitetail hunter. I think he did it for a season. He's like, this is the dumbest shell. Like, no way am I sitting in a tree all fall and when there's birds flying. So I had to go out with my buddies. So like, I would go and learn from their dads and stuff like that. And it was just one of those deals. I mean, dude, that's what we did.
Right.
It wasn't for likes. It wasn't for trying to get sponsored or any of that shit. We're out there in Carhartts or waders in a parka jacket, negative 20 degrees out there, busting ice off of decoys while broadbills are flying.
Right.
And that was, and we never even hesitated. I mean, we would have I tell the girls that we'd pray for it to snow. If we got a good snowstorm and rolled in one night, we knew we weren't going to school in the morning.
Right.
My dad, I'd have all my hunting, same with my brother. We'd lay out everything. My dad would kick our door and get up. Birds are
Right.
flying.
Right.
And we would be out and we would, I remember watching school buses drive by and we're hammering birds. We'd shoot a
I'm not
morning.
going to school today.
No, we'd shoot a morning limit. If the birds were flying, we'd go home, have breakfast. And I didn't know any different. We'd go out, shoot an evening limit. I just thought that was how we did it. And that's
Right.
just how my dad was raised. And like, that's what we did as kids growing up.
Right.
And if it dumped for 3 days straight, we were hunting. I mean, blizzards out there. We're out there just frozen, covered in ice because it's so cold.
Right.
And that was that. But that's what, like, I feel a lot now. These guys and socials change everything. How
Yeah.
all the companies have changed everything. Now it's all for likes, and there's not really. I get there's a huge number, of hunters and everything, but I feel the majority of them don't have the passion from like how unless you grow up in it.
Right.
They get it. And I know people get it and they get the bug, but if you're doing it and you got to post everything on social, I mean, dude, I have some of my biggest deer in the garage. They'll never see the internet. It's because I did it for me, like taking my kids out. It's like I don't.
Right.
The best memories, man, are just with buddies and your
It is.
brothers or dads or whatever.
It's like such a progression, like, because there was an element of time where it was about the meat and it was about feeding a family. And like I say now, like for me, I'll never go hungry. Like that's a side benefit to me. That's a benefit of I shoot an elk. Yeah, I got meat for a whole year. I end up giving a lot of it away or I trade it for stuff because people love it. Like, but it's for me, it's not about that anymore. It's really about, like I say, we talked about, it's about the experience of doing. I mean, I could do the same elk hunt every year in the same place and the outcome would be totally different
every time.
Every time.
You got the same unit and you'll learn something and see something new every time.
And so it's just like you learn every single time you go. And I mean, it could be out calling coyotes. I learned something just as simple as that, sometimes learning. And coyotes are a great example. They're super smart, clever. They get shot at a lot. They're hard to call, but like when you pull one in and hammer one, it's like, I mean,
it's an accomplishment.
It's an accomplishment. Yeah.
So I see these guys, they'll go out for a night, they pile up 15, 20 cows. I'm like, damn, good for you.
Yeah. They do the thermal stuff, which is pretty cool.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So
I support it. Well, dude, I don't know if you got any stories you want to share, but is there anything on top of your head?
No, I mean,
experience wise,
I mean, like I said, I'm very fortunate. I mean, my circumstance is different than a lot of people. Like it's like the wind. If it blows one direction, I can go. Like I keep myself in good enough shape where if something comes up and I can do it, I'm all in on it, and
you earned it though.
Yeah.
You earned
to some extent. I think so.
I mean, dude, you did.
I'd say you pay your dues, but I mean,
sure.
For sure in some things, but in other things, it's like you just never, ever stop pursuing a passion. Like I said, I chased a career forever. And then I just realized like that career turned into a job. And then like, it didn't satiate me anymore. It didn't fulfill me. It didn't give me what I was looking for. And it's a huge risk in anything to step out of the world, and the comfort of the world, and completely remove yourself from that and say, I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
And I just think Americans and American people are just so resilient because everybody has a story. Everyone has baggage, but everyone has a story, but everyone's story is so amazing because everyone found a way to fight through adversity to get to where they are now. And, it's like it's the American dream. Like, it's the beauty of living in America where we have the ability to do what we want, when we want, for the most part. And whether you're successful or not is based on you, right? 100%. It's 100% on you.
100%.
Right. So yeah, and I've probably got so many more stories that I could tell, but I mean, I think the major ones are some of those ones like I shared, and haven't had like a lot of the near-death experiences, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
I haven't faced, I mean, one time on Kodiak Island, we had a brown bear charge us. It was like a 9.5 footer. And, we were hunting deer and, had already shot a buck and had taken care of the buck, dug a trench, put the meat in it because I had one more tag, and we were sitting there looking at another deer and we hear the alders moving, and we were bow hunting again, of course, stupid us, but had sidearms. And those alders in Alaska, as like we physically can't move through those. It's so dense, so tight, and you're like trying to move and you just like, there's no way you can fit through them. Well, when you see them like something
Healing out of
coming
the way.
towards you and they're like doing this and they're moving, there's only one animal on that island that can do that. And we were talking, and I think the bear just like like thought I didn't know what we were. So we're yelling, of course, "Hey bear, get out of here, bear." I've actually got a small video of it. I've got my 10 millimeter, my buddy's got his 9 millimeter, and then we were with another guy behind us. He had a 40. So we're all kind of like just like back to back, right? Like waiting for this thing to come out. And I stepped it off. It was 9 paces, so 8 to 9 feet. Um, Came out of the alders, and we were kind of in a small clear cut. That bear comes out, and the only thing I remember was seeing how big its dewlap was and how big like the hump and just the size of its head. Like, when you start looking at big browns, like their head will tell you a lot, right? Especially the skull size.
Mm-hmm.
That thing came out of that stuff and didn't really look at us, but came up and got back on its hind legs. And then we all just like started putting, shots like into the ground in front of it. And it spun around, blew out, and ran off. But I mean, when we got done, like I remember like setting my pistol down, and I remember like feeling my heart rate all the way through my body. Like in my fingers, I could feel
You feel
like
your pulse in
I
your
could
ears.
feel like my pulse anywhere. And we were all like this dump of adrenaline, like, cause you could see him moving out. We had the wind right. And I think what happened was when the wind shifted, I think he winded us and knew that we, obviously bears noses are absolutely incredible.
Mhm.
He winded us, spun around and ran off. But like, that was a touchy feely
I
for
like that.
sure. We figured he was well over 9 foot. When he stood up on his back legs, like
You're
you
looking
have a
up at
different
it.
appreciation for an animal that big when they're on their back legs like that. And you're just like, like 3 shots. I had a high capacity mag. So I was like, okay, I need to save like, if I need to put like 10 in this thing, I got like 6 to play with. Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
9 feet though, 10 feet. You're getting a couple shots off.
well, that's the problem. They come at you and they've always said like with a bear, or most animals that charge, and I don't know if you've heard this, if their head's up, typically they'll bluff you.
Yeah.
If their head's down and coming at you, they're coming.
Ears
Like,
down and ears, your head down, ears pinned. You're
yeah,
gonna get it.
they're coming. They're not bluffing you. So, and that's what I, like I say, he didn't really charge us. He came out and saw us and got back on his legs, and then he kind of spun around and blew out after I think he kind of knew what we were and smelled us. But yeah, everyone says, and they've said that like if their head's down and they're charging, they're coming at you versus head up looking at you,
Yeah.
So elephants are the same way. If they charge like with their head coming down same way, they're like, you better unload. Cause if not, it's either going to step on you or it's going to grab you and it's going to kill you. Like,
I got a guy that I'm trying to get on. He's got to get him to come through town. He's filmed like 15 elephant hunts,
really?
and he has the wildest. I mean, he got caught in elephant grass and got charged, and his elephant's like stomping, trying to find him, and he was like rolling and oh, just wild,
Yeah.
wild shit. Like,
That kind of stuff is, yeah.
like
You can't make that stuff up.
no, and he's got a lot of it on film too. Like hunters completely freezing, and he's like, "Yeah, fuck it, I'm out." Like getting
Yeah.
charged, and these guys think that they got it, and yeah, But elephants, I hear, is the next level. Me personally, well, until I have found, I had this client for a while, and he was a big elephant guy. Elephants were never on my list because it's
Right.
just you feel like it's just like shooting a
It's
fucking.
like a giraffe. I mean, different, but like,
It's like shooting a house, you know. It's just I always felt like it's just there, and he was like, "Oh boy," he's like, once you hunt an elephant, nothing will ever give you a rush again." He's
that's
like,
what
"That
everyone
is."
says.
Yeah, I hear it a lot. I'm like,
Yeah.
interesting. But for me, I don't know. They're very family oriented. They communicate. I don't know.
Right.
I'm good,
Yeah.
for now.
I kind of got a little bit of like a rush to do my 5 now because I've got the buffalo and the leopard. And so it'd be like, elephant and, and lion, of course, and then rhino, which is now you can
Just
hunt white
dart 'em,
rhino in
right?
some countries.
Okay.
A lot of them, they do the dart thing, but there are some sustainable herds where you can actually still go hunt like white rhinos. But the elephant is the one that the lion, 100%. Like I'm actually already booked to go and do a lion. To
Really?
do that. Yeah.
Okay.
But the rhino, I don't know, like that doesn't really, but it's like the elephant is the one that I'm just like, I don't know, like it just
Mhm.
doesn't really do it. So, but once again, like I'm not chasing the big 5. I'm not chasing the Grand Slam. I'm not chasing the Capra Ovis this. Like
living, man.
Yeah, if it's a cool experience and a buddy's like, "Hey, do you wanna do this?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's go do it,"
Good
you
for
know?
you, man. I
You
mean,
know?
that's everybody's dream,
Yeah.
not just the hunting side of things, but to be able to live their life and live it to the fullest.
Right,
And like you said, man, everybody's got a story, and that's the why I sit down with anybody and everybody, and
right.
everyone's got a story and done some cool shit and gone
Yeah,
through some stuff and
yeah,
hurdles and they've accomplished things, and it's cool to be able to hear, and that's why I'm
yeah. No,
like,
it
yo,
is.
if you're rolling through, let's sit down and have this
No, I'm glad we
conversation.
did because I've listened to some of your podcasts. Like I say, a lot of the military stuff interests me. My grandpa, my dad and my grandpa both Navy. Dad is Vietnam, multiple tours, and then grandpa was World War II.
Oh, okay.
And so I mean, and back then, like in the 40s, like if you were a male over 18, see ya. And then in the 70s, of course, with Vietnam and
Yep.
my dad at that time, like, if you're not going to college, you're pretty much going to be going into the military.
Yeah.
Right. And so my dad kind of followed in those footsteps. And I actually had a point in my life where I was very interested in doing the Air Force Academy. I wanted to fly jets.
Yeah.
And so I applied for the academy. I got the nomination from our governor. I went and interviewed with him when I was a junior in high school and got the nomination thinking, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to officer candidate school. Top Gun was like my movie, right?
Oh, everybody's, yep.
And so that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to fly F-16s, F-18s. And of course that never worked, but I was always intrigued because my dad told me stories of being on patrol boats in Vietnam, right? I mean,
Oh God, I would love to hear those stories.
and I can't even replicate to the extent of anything because it's been so many years.
Mhm.
But then he never said a lot. It was never like confirm this, but it was like, you just point into the and you see
Spray.
black or fire and you just shoot, right? Well, I got interested in my grandpa a little bit more because World War II was always one of those wars that was from like from the time like the whole time span of like, Poland gets invaded and then you've got Pearl Harbor, which is obviously a big one. And then you've got D-Day in Normandy, and
Yep.
then Hitler commits suicide, and then we just nuke them, right?
You actually proved that he didn't.
Really?
Yep. History has been lying to us. I won't even get into that experience.
Okay.
No, he did
Okay.
not.
But
There's proof.
but just like all the timeline, like I know they don't really teach us in schools anymore, but like when I was in high school and like grade school learning about World War II, knowing that my grandpa,
Yeah.
like I got super invested in it. Like I was
Mhm.
just interested in the whole timeline of events and like where he was and amongst that. And he wasn't in Normandy, but he was kind of a part of guys that had stormed the beaches and knew of that happening like during that time frame. So it's just like history, if we don't tell those stories, and there are historians out there, and I call them librarians, but even in the hunting industry, guys that I've looked up to for years that I've had the ability to sit down and talk with, like the amount of stories they have and the things that they've seen that have done this since the 70s and 80s, when those guys pass on, like unless they write a book or do something like this,
Mhm.
those stories go with them to their grave,
I
and
don't know if you got to check out one of our previous episodes. I sit down with George. George, was it George? Can't think. If I'm on fasting mind right now.
yeah,
Fuck.
you're in a different world.
George.
Okay.
He ran Jaguars down in in Mexico on these swamps and these dude, it's a fucking awesome
I need to listen to
episode.
that because I'm super intrigued by jaguars.
They used to make these calls, these homemade Jaguars calls out of gourds, and they would dry it, and they'd put like sheepskin over them and put a hole in it and pull the string through with bees. Fucking badass, man.
Right.
And this guy was running with some of the biggest legend houndsmen ever, and just come from out Midwest and just hitchhiked across the U.S. Ended up meeting this guy. Was like, "Hey, you want to go run Jaguars in Mexico?" He's like, "Fuck, let's do it." And ended up doing that for years.
Right.
It's a badass story.
Yeah.
He's just an old timer. Both his brothers served. One of them got killed storming the beaches, and wild. Like,
Right.
he's one of those guys, and my buddy is with his granddaughter. He's like, "Dude, you got to document this guy's story. It's incredible." And he's like, "Tell me about it." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
But I mean, down there, and there are these little ponga boats like pulling themselves along, calling jaguars in the dark, and they'd have jaguars come right up to the boat in the water, like, didn't even know they were
Yeah.
there. It's guys like
Next
that. Like
level stuff, man.
that's the type of stuff we need. Like, I wish there was more World War II, these old, just I just met one of my neighbors. He's a Vietnam vet, and I see a Purple Heart on his plate, and he was outside one day, literally like 3 days ago. I was like, went and introduced myself. He got
Yeah,
rocketed, got hit, and got a Purple Heart, and became a cop. So I'm gonna try to. He's an old.
absolutely.
I think he's one of those guys that has no idea what a podcast is,
Right. But
but he's right here. I'm gonna be like,
yeah,
hey, can you just tell your story? I want to document it,
right,
And
right.
so, yeah, it's just cool. But there's so many of those stories out there that we have to capture.
It is. And it's like for history to live on, like if we don't either have those in a textbook somewhere or if they're not educating people about this stuff, like it truly just dies off and
Mm-hmm.
history just becomes something that, whether someone knew about it or not, it's like a poof in the wind sometimes,
Yep.
and it's like, and I've seen it with some of the guys, like some of the, like Jack Frost and some of these older just bow hunter guys that I've looked up to as a kid. Like I was on the tail end of my stone sheep hunt and I was getting back to 3 Mile Island. There's a cabin there and I'm just exhausted, 14 days backpack, 80 pounds on my back, I think it was 97 miles we did on that hunt. I get back to the island and just didn't shoot a sheep, just like mentally, physically, spiritually, you name it, just physically exhausted. And I get back into this cabin and I look down and I'm reading in this cabin and it's all like wooden cabin and it says, Jack Frost was here, 1983, hunted my
Oh,
first stone sheep, blah, 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 blah. So I take a picture of this and I'm like, one day I'm going to see Jack, right? And I'm going to show him this. So I wrote my name on the wall. It's kind of seeing like what you got here. I was here this date, blah, blah, blah. I put like sheep 1, Lucas 0 type of thing, right? Anyway, I'm at Dallas Safari Club 2 years after that hunt, 2023. I did that hunt in 01 or 21. And Jack's walking through our Kuyu booth. He's got a Kuyu vest on and I see him and I'm like, oh, that's Jack. So I walk over and I said, Jack Frost. I said, I know you don't know me, but Lucas Paugh. I introduced myself. He goes, hey, I said, I'm a bow hunter. And, we were talking a little bit. I mean, Jack Frost, if anything, in the bow hunting industry, he's like one of those guys, right? Late 70s, did it all, with trad stuff back in the day, hunted 10-foot brown bears with a trad bow, like just, Fred Bearish type guy, right?
yeah.
I said, Jack, I need to show you something. I pull up my phone and I'm going through, I find it and I show him that. And he looks at it, he puts his glasses on, and I immediately, his face just absolutely lights up. And he goes, that was my first sheep. And he just goes on, my first sheep hunt, 1983, day 7, shot my, I mean, tells me the story to the T.
No shit.
But the actual point of the story is he goes, I was faced at that time with a, it was, I think what he said dichotomy. He was like, I had a situation. He goes, at that time, he goes, we didn't have a working vehicle in our house. My wife, we just gotten married. Our cars were broke down. He goes, I had the option at that time to buy a new vehicle or go on a sheep hunt.
Good for him.
And his wife looked at him and she goes, honey, pursue your passion.
Good for her.
So you know what he did? He went, he shot a sheep. The vehicle figured itself out. But here's the interesting part about the story. He goes, back then, I could have bought a new vehicle back then for around, $1,500, well, but a vehicle, right? $1,500, $2,000. He goes, my sheep hunt back then was the same price. He goes, guess what it is today? And this was 2023, right? A stone sheep hunt's 85 to 100 grand. What's the price of a new truck, right? So it was interesting for him to tell that story of literally, not that like North American sheep have escalated to the price of a new vehicle, but it was like, wow, like people probably have that dilemma today. Do I buy a new truck or to live, or do I go on a sheep hunt? Like it like hit me and it was like, holy cow. But anyway, yeah, I showed him that and it was crazy to see his face light up. And he just, 20 minutes we sat there. He told me his whole story about his hunt. We had a lot of commonalities in the mountain, where we were, where we landed,
cool.
and then, and he told me that story. He's like, yeah, I had the dilemma of whether I buy a new vehicle or I go on a sheep hunt. And my wife said, you're going on that sheep hunt, and shot his ram. And
badass
that
wife.
really just like catapulted him into a completely different level. But
I bet. That's not an easy hunt, man.
no,
That's not an easy hunt with a rifle.
no, I mean, most guys go on a stone hunt and it's like, you'll be lucky to see a legal sheep, right? I mean, hunting in northern BC on the Yukon border, there's no other way to do it other than horses or on your 2 legs, right?
Yep.
There's no access. So it is a hunt, but, yeah, it was just crazy. Those types of things, like less than a percentage of the world population will ever go to those places that, you know, you've put boot tracks, I've put boot tracks. Like, that's the coolest part to me.
Yeah.
And then when you meet someone who you look up to, who had been there and like kind of tells this story, it's that kind of stuff is just irreplaceable, you
Does
know?
he have a book?
He's got multiple books. Like Chuck Adams, maybe another one you think of, like Life at Full Draw. Chuck Adams is another guy I look up to, just a insane bow hunter. But Jack was even before Chuck's time. Like Jack was one of the OG. Tom Hoffman, those guys are like the OG archery guys. Like, just
what a time, dude. Imagine just how the giant deer and moose and
they took advantage of what we all wish we could have taken advantage of even when we were kids, right? When I was in college and early in my, like, just the abilities, the opportunities to do things. Whereas now you're like, God, I've accumulated 20 years of points in this state and I still can't draw the tag, but I probably could have drawn it, 15 years ago when I had 5 points. Like, it's just all that stuff. It's like anything. You wish you could go back in time and done it differently.
Good old days.
Those guys took advantage of that stuff back in the day,
For sure.
So pretty
cool.
Their
passion, man. We would have been doing the same thing.
Right. And today they're still at these awards, handing guys awards. Like, they don't, their hunting schedule is significantly changed. They're not doing what they used to do, but those guys still get after it. And it's still pretty cool. It's they're not doing a 14-day backpack hunt anymore.
God, no.
They're doing the stuff that's a little easier on their body. But it's just, for me, that's motivation. I look at a guy like Jack Frost, who's 80 some years old, and he's still doing it. It's like, okay, I got 40 more years in me of this. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know. Right.
Yep. So, I'll tell you what thing, though, like watching those guys and, through the passion and everything, my perspective on hunting has changed so much in the last couple of years, because I got pulled into the hype and the social and having to feel like I have to produce and all that shit. And I worked with my last company I worked with, like, big company in the industry. And I told the wife, because I've never been paid. I've always just helped company. Like, it's just fun. Cool. Right. Like, I don't do it to be an influencer out of it and be some pro staff.
Right.
To me, that's fucking lame. But,
and that's dying off, by the way. That stuff is,
big time.
But like, realize they don't need those people anymore.
You don't. And so what happened for me was, like, I got more joy of watching my kids shoot a cow, elk, or a freaking doe antelope.
Right.
And than anything else.
Right.
Than anything. And that's why I love guiding, is because I get to watch a lot of people be able to take something for the first time, or this dude saved up for 5 years to come out and hunt a giant deer or whatever. And then you get to see that reaction. Like, that's when I started really processing. I'm like, man, like, this, I got to get back to my roots. I got sucked into the game of, oh, this company's great.
Up with the Joneses.
Exactly. And now it's like, I went out with my youngest last year, and I went up to my buddy's ranch. It's got a beautiful place. And dude, we just, best time ever.
Right.
Watching her shoot, all of her and I, we sat a whole fucking bear season. She passed 22 bears that season.
Holy cow.
And so
that's patience. Was it her or dad? Was dad not telling her to shoot? Because
there was a couple bears. I'm like, just fucking shoot the bear.
Yeah.
We're good. I'm over it. Let's go. But the rule in our house is, because we've killed so many bears, is we have to shoot equal or above.
Gotcha. There's a standard. So
equal or above. Like, we're not just going to shoot a bear. There's no point. I mean,
right.
$450 a tan of hide. You got $250 in a skull.
Right.
We're, like, we're shooting 3-4 bears a season. It adds up. And so equal or above. And and then the last bear she killed, she's like, Dad, I want a mature bear. I'm like, done. I'm like, you're going to have to wait. I can't guarantee it. And these bears would step out, and she'd look at me and be like, and the next bear's up. Look at me, like, every night. And there's nights we'd have 4 or 5 bears roll through, and I'm like, no. And then finally she goes like, Dad, how do you know? How do you know when it's the one? I'm like, you just know.
Right.
When you were like, holy shit, shoot it.
Or when you lose your shit and you're like,
shoot it. Don't question me.
Buck fever.
Yeah. If you're excited and you look and you're like, oh, wow. Like, I haven't seen one like that. Shoot it. And then finally this bear come cruising through, and it stepped out, and she looked back at me like, I was like,
hammer time.
And it didn't even stop. It was just cruising. And I actually mouth called this thing with my hand. I was like making squeaking noises.
Stop it.
Stops, comes back, does a little loop and it's walking away, and I kind of yelled at it. It stopped and looked back, and as soon as it looked back, she hammers this thing, and it takes off, piles up. But like it was just, I'm like, that's what it takes.
Right.
It's that. But to
But
watch
that experience with her, yeah.
to watch this little girl have that patience to pass bear after bear, and I mean, there's guys that come here and I didn't even see a bear, and here she is passing 22 bears in a season. I'm like, okay, like,
Yeah.
and I mean, dude, it was a lot of work, but you know, it was rewarding. It was a great bear. She had a little friend with her, and it was badass. And they both packed out. I sat there, and they were skinning. Like I did all the main cuts just so they didn't screw anything up.
Right.
And I sat back, and what do we have? Those last lights, you know, those strings and those last light strings. Dude, I hung one up, put a freaking dark energy little pack on it, lit up the whole area. I just sat back on my pack. I'm like, yeah, you're doing great, kids. And they sat there and skinned the whole thing out, quartered it all up, put all the meat in their packs. And dude, I had 2 little helpers. They hiked everything off the mountain for me. I was like, this
the
is
world
great.
needs more of that.
Yeah.
The world needs more of kids getting their hands dirty and, you know, and just living like the life that, you know, people way beyond before us did. Like kids had to survive just like adults did, you know, back in the days.
They provide, man.
Absolutely. Like it was about survival to some extent, you know, and like just primal. Like, I mean, to your tune, like the chord you're hitting with your kids, like I feel the same way with my nephews. I've been fortunate now that they're of age to take them hunting. Like I look forward to every year taking them deer hunting, where my dad took my brother and I deer hunting.
Yeah.
And we don't kill the biggest bucks. We kill nice
You don't
deer,
need to,
but
though.
that experience of taking them to do that, like it is by far the highlight of anything that I'll do all in a year, spending that time with them, you know, getting them on a deer, getting them on the rifle set up. Like, can you see them? No, I'll, you know, run the power. Can you see them? Yeah. Just like the whole sequence, you know, the deer's running and okay, don't shoot, you know, and it's just like seeing these little humans that came from our, you know, genetics that can pull this off. Like that's, I mean, cause I was one too. I was chasing, you know, I wasn't chasing fame by any means, but early, like when social media started, I was posting every day and trying to make, and then I just realized I'm like, shit, I don't think I posted anything in the last 2 months. Like, and I've got stuff I've done. And I just, you know, it's like, for me, it's not even about that anymore. It's like the cool things are cool. And the other stuff, like it just doesn't, it's not that important to me anymore. And I think it's with people in hunting. There's such a progression with, you know, like trophy hunting, that takes a whole other, you know, thing. Like, oh, you're a trophy hunter. It's like, well, I like to hunt mature animals.
Yeah.
Whether that means the animal's a giant record book animal or it's just an old decrepit animal, that like, I like to hunt old animals. Is that trophy hunting? Yeah, call it that. But I'd rather shoot that animal than shoot its offspring that's 3 years old that never even had a chance to live. Right. And so that's just back to that education. Like, you know, it's hunting mature animals. It's call it whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's the progression I'm at. And I can easily eat my tag now and be totally 100% okay with it if I don't find what I'm looking for. Because I'll let that little buck live to be, you know, 5 to 7 before.
Why are you pointing at my little, why are you pointing at my little buck?
That little whitetail there. I was looking at your mule deer and I'm like, oh, that's a big mule deer. But like if that was a mule deer, you know, if I couldn't shoot that buck, I would let that buck grow up.
For sure.
To hopefully maybe I could hunt him in 2 or 3 more years.
But I think when it comes to kids, it's the opposite. I feel a lot of these dads now, they have to, oh, my son, kill the giant, you know, and they're all about this trophy picture. When in reality, that kid doesn't give a shit about.
Some kids get ruined. First kid shoots that buck.
Yeah.
It's his first buck. Like,
yes. That's why I'm a firm believer. First couple seasons, your kids should just be shooting does. Get them out there, get them experiencing the weather, the adventure, the experience.
Behind the trigger.
They get to learn the gun, and they get to kill something. They get the process, and then it's in them. All you as dads, or anybody that's taking little kids out, our main goal, 2 main goals: get them hooked on it, have as much fun as possible. When you're starting to chase inches, that's when, and I did it with them and with her in the very beginning. Let's go. Hurry. We got to shoot this deer. And then I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't fun. We come back.
Fun out of it.
It wasn't fun. And then I was like, all right. Now, thank God we've done it enough. Now it's like you put your kids on the gun. You're like, all right, range. Hey, here's the range. Dial. She's dialed.
Yep.
I'm in the spot. He's go. It's beautiful. Now, super chill. But I see a lot of these dads, and I do a lot of father-son hunts, like for their first time, even the dad.
Right.
Now I'm like, I look at the dad and I'm like,
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah.
Relax. He's feeding off of you, And
Right.
so
Yeah. You can tell, you can sense that too. Because the
100%.
dads are almost living vicariously through their kid, and they want their kid to, shoot. I mean, we all want to shoot a giant
Yeah.
animal, but I've seen that happen where kids their first time have shot. I mean, buddy of mine, his nephew shot a 218-inch mule deer. It was his first mule deer, and I'm like, okay, that's an awesome deer. Like he'll never kill anything bigger than that in his life. And the picture's terrible. The tongue's hanging out. They didn't do the pictures justice, and it's like I hate that because I respect the animal so much. Like people hate when I'm around because it's a photo set. It's like getting married. Like, okay, we're going to do this, but like,
that's how it should
but
be.
I clean where the shot is. I clean the nose. I tuck the tongue in, or I make it to where
Yes.
as respectful as I can, because the other thing is people after the fact, and I've had people a year later say, you know what? I hated it at the time, but I'm so glad we took the extra time to take good photos because I can still enjoy them, right? That's a moment in time that will only happen at that point, but you could relive it
Get
again.
one shot.
You got one shot at it, right? You're never gonna be able to be holding that animal again at this time. And people always give me a hard time about them. I'm like, I always tell them, trust me, you're gonna appreciate this later that we took the time to take good photos.
Cutting little saplings out of the ground. I'm
Right.
ripping grass.
Getting the grass out of the
You ask
way.
any of the girls,
Right.
including my wife, what's the worst part of hunting with dad? The pictures.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, get comfortable. It'll be a little bit.
I just hate seeing what people post sometimes. And I'm like, oh my God, like terrible photos. It's such a great animal.
You want to hear a horrible story? I chased this buck archery season. So 2 weeks of archery season with clients, 2 weeks of muzzleloader. And it was like a 215, 218 mule deer. 2 weeks of archery, 2 weeks of muzzleloader, 2 weeks of rifle. Then we went to late archery, and then I think it goes to rifle. Anyway, so like one season, but there's how the season
multiple like
weapon
firearm
changes, right?
Archery.
I chased this buck. I knew where this deer was living. I'd cruise in there. He was always in an area we couldn't get in, and I get a picture sent to me one day. There's like this 12-year-old little girl sitting on this buck, pulled all the way back, jaws wide open, tongue hanging out. And I was like, congratulations. And she ended up shooting it from the truck out of a window because it was on their property. They just drove right up to it. I got the whole story. I was like so heartbroken. I'm like, God, you couldn't at least take a good picture. But yeah, I'm a stickler with that because like that animal just lived its whole life. The last thing I wanted to do is look like shit,
Respect to me.
Exactly. Like I have a roll when I was guiding, when I left that truck and I had a pack in, I put a roll of paper towels or a huge wad of paper towels.
Always. I got wet wipes. I'll do a little bit of that, like paper towel.
Lips, wipe the whole inside of the lips and the nostrils. I'm wiping the fur. I'm getting everything brushed off, cover anything with dirt if I have to, and that prop that animal up. And there's a science. There's somebody, I don't know who needs to do it. I'll do it if I have to, but somebody needs to host a seminar at these hunting expos of how to take a fucking grip and grin.
Right.
Because I mean, they're behind the horns, you're blocking the horns. I mean, even just leveling it, making sure that the animal's horns are you're going to have this for the rest of your life.
Difference.
That's all you're
going
to have.
Little details.
There's so
much difference in the world.
So I will spend an hour prepping. And my wife's just sitting there like, are we ready? I'm like, shut up. It's not ready yet. Like,
I know.
Bears are the worst because you kill a bear, they flatten out.
Right.
So you got to try to get this thing on a log or a rock. You got to put some mass to it.
Yep. I was in Colorado. I drew a really good mule deer tag. Knew of a buck. Had pictures of him the year before. Buddy of mine found one of his sheds. He's an outfitter there. Archery season in August, they had a hunter went after him in velvet, just 220 type buck, stud buck. In the unit, I had the tag. They saw him after the second season, still alive. I had a third season tag, middle part of November. So I'm like, great. So he basically sent me the last pin where they had seen that buck in second season, lived. And I said, great. So I camped. I was probably within a mile of where that pin was, hunting 3 or 4 days, trying to find this deer. And I mean, I was like legit, like I was okay not shooting a deer if I didn't, if I didn't see that deer, like I was going to kill that buck. I'm in camp one night, making dinner, and this side-by-side rolls up. And this guy gets out of it. He's He's so big he can hardly get out of it. His brother's driving it, and brothers. Big guy gets out of the side, walks over, and he goes like, "Oh, you guys got deer tags?" Like, "Yeah." "What about you guys?" He goes, "Yeah, I got a deer tag. My brother's got an over-the-counter elk tag." I'm like, "Cool." He's like, "How you guys doing?" I said, "I've seen a couple, deer, nothing that I'm really interested in." And I'm like, "How about you guys?" He goes, "Well, we got a pretty good one today." I said, "Really?" He walks over and pulls his phone up. Driving on the road, buck was rutting a doe at 40 yards off the road. Guy gets out off the side by side, shoots and misses.
Of course.
Deer runs up, keeps following the doe. The doe starts running off, hits it in the ass, hits it in the ass again. Anyway, long story short, he kills this deer, right? And they drape it over this log, and none of the body is like, the body's like behind the log. The legs are behind the log.
Oh, the legs at least were
No,
behind.
no, the legs are behind the log, so it's just the head, but it's like no backdrop, terrible backdrop, tongue hanging out, and there's this guy. He's 4+, 4 feet. He's a huge guy holding this buck, and I'm like, "You have any other photos?" He had 3 photos on his phone of it. One laying on the ground after he shot it, and 2 of him holding it. That was it. And I'm like, it was totally the deer. Like I showed him the pictures I had from archery and then all that. I'm like, it's 224-inch buck.
Ugh.
Guy out of Vernal, Utah.
Good for him.
Right. I mean,
Good for him.
it's like you think about all the time and effort, and I was talking about this with Chad, like, you might as well just go buy a steer, raise it, and butcher it, because by the time you calculate the tag of an elk, traveling there, the food you spend, the time, the blah, 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 I mean, you're $15-20 a pound for burger, right? I mean, when you really break it down, but it's the experience, right? It's going to elk hunt. It's going to do the thing. Go with your buddies.
It's way
set
cheaper
up
to buy a steer. Less wear and tear.
Right. Probably tastes,
tastes better.
Yeah.
Beef is king. I'm
Right.
one of those people.
Right. I mean, I love beef. I mean, I love wild game, but every once in a while I love just having a good, steak, but it's like, it's like those types of things where you put all this time and energy and and you have all the technology. I got pins on it. I know the canyons he's going. I know where he's feeding. I know where he's watering, trying to find him. And this old boy at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, road hunting.
Yep.
That buck's standing off the side of the road, and it's like, well, good for him. Like, what do you?
It happens.
It happens, and you hear about it all the time.
I was working when I was with Cryptech. We're in the office one day, and this guy comes rolling in. I think he's wearing Kuyu. He comes walking in the office. We're like, "What's this guy doing?" He's like, "Man, I shot a good deer. Does anybody know how to score a deer?" And I'm like, "I'll take a look at it. I don't have any tape, but I'll take a look at it." I can look at a deer and be within 5 inches of it, I feel like, on a mule deer. I was like, "Yeah, let me take a look at it." He's like, "I think it's pretty good. It's my first mule deer ever." And I'm like, "Perfect. Let's go look at it, buddy. Like, I'd love to see this thing." I walk out there. I would have put this buck at 210, 215. He drops a tailgate out of truck, and I'm like, "This is your first mule deer?" He's like, "First mule deer I've ever seen." I'm like, jaw drop. Like,
right.
"Where did you shoot this?" He's like, 39. I'm like, "The most hunted unit in the state of Idaho. You just shot this." He was like, "Standing right on the side of the road." I go, "Buddy, you'll never see a deer like this again, especially in that unit." And it was like middle of rifle season, how it had made it that long. Like, it's a war zone up there.
Right.
If anybody ever asked me, "Where do I hunt in Idaho?" I sent them right there.
Yeah, just with everybody else, right?
That's the unit. Go hunt it.
And you can figure it out.
Yeah, super easy. Roads everywhere. And this dude shoots I would say minimum 210. And I was just like, and everybody was just standing around the truck like,
yeah.
Never even seen a mule deer in his life. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I was just standing right there."
Right.
Got out and shot it.
I think more times than not, the legit hardworking guys consistently get it done every year.
For sure.
And shoot like good stuff.
For sure.
But it's the random dude that maybe hires an outfitter that, draws a tag, and it's like the next level stuff. I mean, like these auction tags, I don't even consider that. These guys that spend, $500,000 on a deer tag, they're shooting a deer. They're not hunting, right?
No.
These outfitters have found the deer. Like it's like counting the days to when the season starts, knowing that deer is going to be dead. Like, I get it. It's money for conservation, the state, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's like, it doesn't, even financially, if I had the means, it's not me, but that type of stuff, is out there too. And it's like, it doesn't give the industry a bad name. It just, I don't know, but it's like those guys that not, I would say necessarily deserve it, but they don't, like, they haven't really put in the time. They go and do that stuff, It's
And
like,
to each
I
their
don't
own. I
know.
mean, if I had the money, just fuck you money like they do, I would buy some cool hunts for the kids. Like I would want to go on those experiences,
Right.
Not I wouldn't be paying $500,000 for a fucking deer hunt. Pay 20, 30 grand to go hunt like,
Yeah.
some
A good
cool,
unit, shoot a
yeah,
good
good.
buck,
I get a
right?
chance, a good unit, and there's you
Low
still got to
pressure.
hunt it,
Right.
100%. But I mean, you see these guys and everyone's freaking jerking off over nothing on Casey Brooks, but I mean, dude, you shot it out of somebody's yard, and now everyone's like new world record, and
That's a whole other
I have
rabbit
pictures
hole.
of them the hand feeding that thing.
Yeah.
The I'm like,
The trail cam video of it in the backyard.
there's freaking yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, and this is just me, and I'm not shitting on anybody. If I had the money and I didn't know what to do with it, yeah, I'd be doing the same shit, maybe, but that's you're just
Yeah.
killing at that point. It's
People
not.
said that. It's like, well, would you shoot that elk if you had the tag? It's like, it's hard to say, no, I wouldn't, because it's a giant, but how you do it and how it was done. Like, I supposedly he went on a podcast and told the story recently. I haven't listened to it, but there's, I guess, some legitimacy to what he did. I mean, he bought
Teach their own.
the governor tag,
Yeah.
and he's very wealthy, and he, to his credit, he's hunted and he's killed a lot of big elk. Like
Lot.
he's
He's a killer. I'm not taking the
is,
fact away
no
that there's a
question.
killer.
But you kill an elk like that, and then there's all the other stuff circulating. Get ready. Like it's not a matter of if, but when that's going to get put on.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm not rich and he is, and it's a jealousy thing or an envy thing that he
Right.
gets the opportunity to do it. I'll admit it. Like if I had fuck you money, but I feel at the same time I'd rather. Who knows? The guy's killed so much shit. Like where do you go from there? You get an
Right.
opportunity. I guide guys like that have that money.
Right. Yep.
I've walked up on 230-inch deer and the guy was like, "Cool, take care of it." I'm like,
Yeah.
take care of it. Like they didn't even care. So guys do. Teach
Some of
their
them
own.
don't even care about the photos. It's like, shoot it, show up the one day, shoot it, get on their plane, they're gone. Like, I mean, there's that out there too with some of these guys.
I had a dude tell me the skull cap a deer once, like a 205 muley. He's like, yeah, just skull cap it for me. Oh, that'll look good in the barn. I looked and I'm like, I'm not skull capping this deer.
That ain't
I
happening.
was like, I'll cape it for you, and you could do what you want with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was like, I would literally do anything to kill this deer at that point. And I was
Right.
like, I'm not gonna just skull cap it. You could run a screw and put it and hang it in the barn. So
Right.
to each their own though. But yeah,
Exactly.
to each their own.
their own.
To each their own.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking it.
And like you
but
were saying earlier, like some guys that pay the money and do it, it's like, there's those people. There's people that can only maybe hunt in their home state and afford to and grind it every year.
Yeah.
And there's every spectrum in between of people that do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I think all of it combined, like, yeah, a guy paid $1.3 million for a New Mexico bighorn sheep tag at the sheep show this year. And it was a proxy bid. The guy's on the phone with this guy in the room bidding this up. The guy who actually wrote the check wasn't in the room. And they know there's a big sheep in there, and there was a big sheep taken the year prior. But they know there's another big ram in there. $1.3 million. Never has an auction ever broke $1 million for an animal in North America. But now you're seeing, the Arizona tag last year for deer went for $720,000. Antelope Island tag goes for, I mean, where's the roof?
every year.
Where
Where
is this going to end?
I bet you if they auctioned off a grizzly hunt in Montana, it would go for millions.
Oh, I bet.
Millions.
Montana or Wyoming, if they ever opened that up, which they kind of wanted to, and they were going to do a lottery, and then they stopped it. I guarantee, just because I could say I shot a grizzly in interior North America.
To be the first person to do it
Lower
since
48.
whenever.
Yeah, whenever that was, right?
Yeah. They should have one that goes up for auction, and they should have one that goes up for lottery, just like Antelope Island.
Yep.
And think about the millions of dollars that would generate. But we'll go off of emotion.
Yep.
You work off of emotion.
Yeah.
Take the antis out of it. Take everybody out of it. The numbers are obviously there because people are getting eaten every year by grizzlies. The numbers are increasing every year.
More, yeah. Absolutely.
Everybody's getting fucked up on trails, and it's happening more and more every year.
Hunters and outfitters is not just hikers.
No.
That one in Wyoming, the outfitter got killed.
That was here, I thought.
Or was it Idaho?
Northern Idaho, where the client ran and the outfitter got eaten.
There was that one too. Yeah, I think there was one in Wyoming, but nonetheless, like, you start to lose track
Mm-hmm.
of these attacks from grizzly bears.
And here's a crazy thing, and I think I've talked about it on this podcast. I know I talked about it in the other one. I have video footage of the state of Wyoming flying over grizzly bears that are snared for grizzly snares and shooting them with shotguns. If the numbers are that high,
Yeah.
why aren't we doing it? It's because they're working off of emotion and they want to appeal to the anti-hunting crowd. They don't want to offend them, but instead they'll set bait piles with snares around them and they fly them and they do a rotation and they fly in, they shoot these bears in the face with a shotgun. They land the helicopter, they cut the head off, they cut the paws off, they completely shred the hide, they shoot a bunch of holes in the skull, and they leave it. And they take a hide sample and they take a meat sample. That's all they got to bring back. Why are we doing that? So the antis don't get offended? You mean to tell me that's more
Ethical.
than just opening it up and raffling it off and making millions of dollars for your state? Make that make sense.
Right.
Make it make sense. That you're flying, and it sucks to watch this giant bear pulling itself as you're hovering over it, and you just, I get it, they're state trappers, and nothing on them. They're doing their job and what they're paid to do.
Being asked to do
but
that.
it's the state that's doing that because they don't want to offend people.
Santa Rosa Island, California, great examples. Kaibab mule deer genetics implanted there, Roosevelt elk on the island, making $15,000 hunts, like doing great. And then the antis, well, we want to return. Santa Rosa is one of the Channel Islands near Ventura and Santa Barbara there. So you got like Anacapa, San Miguel, and Santa Rosa, all the islands out there. Anyway, the antis had something like, oh, we want to return Santa Rosa back to its natural state because we don't like the hunting. So went out in helicopters and shot every single animal out there, shot them and left them. I mean, legit 200 plus inch deer every year out there being shot, and conserved and managed and being able to hunt, providing, money to, conservation, all that, and wiped it out. And now it's just an island. Yeah.
Just why? It's like cormorants are just shitting all over it and rotting away.
Exactly. And something that was like, Catalina's next. I mean, Catalina, you can
it's up for sale right now.
You can do they've got free range bison on there and they've got the blacktail hunts. And I'm trying to get on the island this year to do a hunt just to say I did. You don't shoot big deer there, but it's next. Catalina's going to be next. And then you're not going to be able to hunt Catalina. And it's like all the years of guys that I know that archery hunted, like the wild goats and the deer and stuff out there, tell you the stories how good Catalina was. And now it's like same thing. It's on the chopping block. It's like,
that's where I get frustrated with these conservation groups because they're all, oh, we're making a difference and cool. You gathered some sheep and you flew them in and collared them and moved them to another state, which you've done those before.
I have. I've done the captures. Yeah.
I feel like a lot, not a lot, but I feel like some of them are dying of stress. Same way with mule deer, they're moving these things and they're such a sensitive animal.
Yeah, they are.
And so like they're losing them, which I get, it's part of it. But you get these, and I'm cool with that. If we want to implant new mountain ranges and we let those herds grow, cool, right. Dude. I'm all for that. The problem I have with these conservation groups is like, what the fuck are you doing to fight, to counter what we're going against? It's like they're like a blind eye to. I think Blood Origins may be the only one that.
Yeah, Robbie, he does a lot of stuff.
He does a lot. He really puts a good message out. But like, where the fuck is Mule Deer Foundation? Where's Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation? I love Mule Deer Foundation. Like I've known all those guys for years.
Right.
They've taken care of my organization. They take care of vets. Like I'm not knocking it, but like, were they, and maybe I just don't know and don't see it. Maybe they should do a better job putting that message out there. But like, who's at Congress fighting for this stuff? Why are the hunters having to do this? Why are we the ones having to be the voice when they're the ones bringing in millions of dollars a year off of our backs?
Right.
Those motherfuckers ain't in Washington, at least that I see. Who's doing it. Like, why aren't they the ones that are countering all this shit? Why aren't they the ones that are trying to put in new legislative bills to be able to open up areas or close areas down or whatever it may be? I mean, you have BHA, which is the biggest piece of shit organization on the planet, in my opinion. I don't give a fuck. I'll say whatever I want because I'm not involved in the industry.
Yeah,
those guys are the biggest pieces of shit. People that are like,
it's a cult, man.
It's 100%. It's a liberal hunting cult is what BHA is.
Cult.
When I found out that one of my buddies was working for him and they were paying him $75,000 a year to be a community liaison in his area. 75. I was like, bro, I have my own charity. I've had it for a decade, and
Yes, I know.
there ain't nobody making that. It's
They have been able to somehow start, and like some of them have been ancient years, like, you know, like mule deer, Rocky Mountain elk. But when you really get behind the scenes of what some of them do, I'm not a member of any. I used to be a member of a lot of them, life members. Some like I've stopped all of that. And there's only a few organizations I really affiliate with that I think align with, like Kuyu Conservation Direct and GSCO. They're doing some cool stuff. They're
yeah,
actually taking sheep out of areas that are very good sustainable herds, moving them to areas to try to get them to be
for sure.
sustainable over 5 years so we can hunt them in the future. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's private equity, private funded, not funded by any guy buying a tag. Like it's all privately funded stuff.
Yeah.
So like that stuff I can align with. But I had an elk tag in New Mexico a few years. Well, I was like, wow, 2016, 2017. And it was an RMEF thing, but it was specifically around a private piece of easement that they had bought to open it up to basically be an opportunity for elk to move through there, where basically they'd open up to public land. Like it was landlocked. Long story short, there was a lot of stuff that went on, but they bought the ranch, held on to it for 5 years, didn't do the easement, turned around, sold it for double. It's just like,
Yeah.
so when you hear the behind the scenes of certain things that they're doing,
Yeah.
and like I said, I don't want to throw, meat or, bad juju on any of them, because I do feel like there's some things in the organizations that's positive, but when you really kind of hear what goes on behind the scenes on a lot of them, to your point, well, Catalina's getting ready to get shut down. Like
Why are we fighting?
who's on the line? Yeah, who's in DC or who's in Sacramento right now, pressing to show how much money that makes and what it does, and
Mm-hmm.
the ecology of the island, and like how certain things thrive because the animals are there, and blah 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 blah, like all of that.
Yeah.
Nobody is. No
Yeah.
one's helping.
You're sitting here with 32 million in your bank account. Spend it.
Right.
Put it in the conservation of
Right.
fighting our rights, so
Right.
our kids can have the ability to hunt one day.
Yep. So they can go hunt Catalina in 20 years and,
Yeah.
say, hey, my dad hunted this, back in, 2020. Like it's those types of things are going away, and it's just, it's death by a thousand cuts.
Yep.
It's everything that the antis, the lobbyists, the NGOs, whatever you want to call them, like they're slowly finding ways to maybe not ban the animal, but do something else that in turn,
Mm-hmm.
causes the animal to basically where you can't hunt them or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And
And it makes me think because and it's like, dude, my buddy, I don't know if you know James Nash very well, one of my best friends. I mean, he's just a guy, huge outdoorsman. He's very educated. He knows everything about Oregon and the animals and he's having to go to Portland and like and sit in front of Congress and or their legislative there and fight the fight. I'm like,
mhm.
why is there not an organization that has a paid staff member that knows every fact, all the numbers, and can go there and do what he's doing? Why does it take us to do
They
that?
have those people. I
We-
know a lot of the organizations have people internally that are supposed to be doing that stuff. And
Who knows where it goes? I don't know. That's just my
some battles get won, some battles get lost. The
Mhm.
battles that win, I think we don't celebrate the successes on the battles we win, and we solely focus on the negative and the ones that we don't. And that's just life. Like, how often do you ever celebrate successes? It's always, I did this really
failures.
cool, but God, I didn't do this and I failed. And it's like, it's everything. And it's in life, it's work. It's like we rarely celebrate successes. And I think the more that the successes are shared with people and education and understanding, then they'll actually realize that it's not all the negative all the time.
Yeah.
There is some good things happening, but rarely does that ever see, the light of day.
Yep.
It's always this, fighting this, that's happening. We're going to ban this. We're going to, data. It's just like constant. And I do plug like SCI as much as the organization is out for money, which they're very money driven. They are putting a lot of the money or their money where their mouth is. Like they are putting people on the front lines and doing some good things.
Good.
So that there are some success stories out there, but you mentioned a few earlier that, yeah, I don't support anymore, because when you start hearing what happens, like I had a friend that worked, she was like the secretary at a very high level at BHA, and, technically public or, 501, to where you can see where everything's going,
Yep.
who's getting paid what, the president all the way down, and you start seeing where the money's going, and you're like, yeah,
No,
sorry,
I'm good.
can't support that. They used to do their rendezvous here
Yeah.
in Boise, and I went one time, I think, because I was curious, like, what is this group about? They're one of the fastest growing and it's like a cult. And like, I remember going into this room and all these guys like get in the middle and they start chanting, and Land's in there chanting, and like everyone's like, it was like a KKK like forum, like all these say white people going in the middle, and they're just like,
All
BHA,
wearing Sika.
yeah, sicker first
First
night. And I'm
Light.
just like, okay, this is weird. Like, I am not following that group. And then I went 1 year and it was kind of it, but I don't even know if they're still, I have no idea, like if they're even still going or what.
I
Like,
don't either.
used to see their stickers all over people's trucks. I think it's just like a lot of things in waves, like flash in the pan, like, and I'm sure there were things that they did that were positive, but I just couldn't align with that
BHA was
company.
the BLM of the hunting industry
Yeah.
for sure. It still is.
Yeah.
They're
The
just
BLM. Jesus.
that's how I would put it. That's what I'd compare them to.
Right.
Like, what do you do?
Right.
Just collect money and send people on parties.
Right.
Like, that's it.
Right. I think some of it is people join them or they start them and they become rich off of it. Like,
Absolutely.
or they
man.
feed their agenda to, you see all these pictures, they're out hunting, and it's like, okay, like, come on, man. Like,
Yep.
you couldn't afford that on the salary.
No, you go back to prior to you working with BHA, and you shot a fucking shit little 120-inch whitetail. Now you're killing giant muleys and moose and stone sheep,
Right.
and it's like,
Right. Yeah. Wild sheep is like, I support them to the extent of going to the show. I believe in some of the stuff they're doing, but when you get in the inner workings of even of that organization, it's like, man, I just,
see, like you would, like me as a hunter, I would love to see Wild Sheep Foundation partner with Kuyu, since Kuyu's actually doing something. Why aren't they funding that?
not even, it's,
Why is there this riff or this line?
well,
and it is the charity world, because I mean, dude, I've had a charity for 11 years, and
right.
there's like this, oh, these are our veterans and these are our donors and sponsors. It's like, it's
Right.
it's a really weird community, is the charity world. I get it. I've been in the trenches for over a decade.
Yeah.
But if you're truly about the veterans or you're truly about conservation, it's like, man, those guys are crushing. I've reached out to you. Like, yo, how can we help? You guys are doing something badass that we don't do. Can we help fund a program?
Right.
That'd be incredible. Like, why isn't Wild Sheep Foundation is bringing in $23 million a show or whatever it is? I could have blown that out of the water, but I thought I heard that number.
Oh no, it's those sheep tags are,
they're selling them every night, and they're bringing millions of dollars a night. Okay, cool. And if you're take some of that and be like, cool, we're going to allocate that. This program's actually making a difference, and they can use help. These guys can use help. We could fund these.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe
there's an element of some of that happening, but then
for sure,
when you see what their president and the people are making in that organization, there's only like, 8 paid employees or whatever. It's small overhead, but when it's public record that, the head guy leading it's making, half to $750,000 a year, like,
dude. Unnecessary.
Really? Yet he's never shot a sheep prior to being the president. Now he's got 2 Grand Slams. Like, you just kind of start looking at it and you're like, I don't know, like, I hate to like throw that on anyone and like say, put yourself in those shoes, and you're probably given opportunities like, hey, I got an extra tag. You want to come up and shoot a doll sheep? Like, what are you going to say? But in the limelight of it, when you look at it, you're like, come on, man. Like,
everything.
Yeah. Perception is reality a lot of times. But not to throw hate on all of them.
I'm not trying to knock, but I would like to see more. I would like to,
100%.
especially where the world is right now. You got Doge and everybody's calling everybody out and everything's happening and everybody wants to see full transparency. I think that, and this isn't like a bash fest. This is just me as an outdoorsman that contributes to some of these. And I go to these events and I've been at having booths at these shows.
Right.
Where, and I get it. This year we helped plant 33,000 trees and we built 62 guzzlers in the mountains cool. Where the fuck? That didn't cost what you guys raised last year or the year before.
Yeah.
Like
I say, you work for nonprofit and that fulfilling work as it is. And I do a little bit of work in it as well I started a scholarship endowment, but like, it's a lot of work, but it's the rewarding part of it is seeing what you actually do with it and where it goes and understanding and knowing that. And the problem, I think, at the scale of these wildlife organizations is there's tens of thousands of people there seeing all of this happening, but then not seeing the result. Right. Well, yeah, we just sold sheep tag for 1.3 million, and the Wyoming tag went for 400,000, and blah blah blah. And next thing you know, yeah, you've raised $5 million tonight in one room in an auction. Okay, like I'm kind of just a little curious. Like
What,
I don't need to know the details, but
Yeah.
like help me out here, because technically a lot of the money does go back to the state. Now, Wild Sheep does take a commission on these tags because they auction them there. They're making money on it, but like that $1.3 million, I bet $1 million of that money went to New Mexico.
Mhm.
Technically, the way it's written in the charters is that a lot of that money goes to those states. Great. Well, then in that state, show me where that $1 million went.
And
right?
okay, so that's my next thing, that these states, how much money are they making off of us? Take like New
yeah.
Mexico, right? That you have to pay up front.
It's crazy. Oh yeah, your license, your
Everything you have to
$3,000
pay up
sheep
front.
tag. Yeah,
So you're bringing in millions of dollars on just applications.
right.
You're putting that in a bank account. You're making interest off of the millions of dollars that you just raised. Let it sit in the bank for a couple of months before you draw tags. Then you refund the people. You just made a huge chunk of money off the interest they raised. Why are you going to sit here and tell me that your fucking mule deer numbers are down? What are you doing about it? Like, the states are even worse. I guess we don't even need to get into that rabbit hole, but all I want to see is where we're at in this year moving forward. I think what
Right.
would help a lot and do the community a better justice is showing everything that's going on.
Right.
You got fucking $1.3 million from a sheep tag. You could hire a PR rep and a social media agent to sit there and
Right.
post every day about all the cool shit that's going on in your
Right.
organization or state.
And I think to some extent, maybe that stuff happens and it's like I say, it's just not communicated
Yeah.
or
And if it is going on,
who knows,
put
right?
it out there more.
Right.
More
But
transparency.
that type of stuff, if that positive message is going out, it helps shut down a lot of these negative messages and the antis and all. Like, that's what I mean. Like, we just, as hunters in the community, we don't tell our story well enough. You know?
No, and that's where, like, when an anti-hunter comes and tries to attack you, it's like, well, what have you done? What have you actually done besides bitch and wish the most horrible, vile things on people on the internet, which anti-hunters are the absolute scum of the earth when it comes to the things that they say about children, everything on that sense. Give us the numbers to be able to fight back. Put it out there. Hey, this many acres got converted.
Yeah. We open up this easement that opens up 20,000 acres to public land hunting and blah, blah, like you just, you don't hear. And that's what a lot of these organizations were put in place for, was to try to privatized stuff, open some of those easements to allow more acreage. And, you know, when I heard that story about RMEF, that was my last year as being a member. I'm like, you know, all they're doing is basically a ranch brokerage firm is all it is. Buy the ranch, sit on it, sell it, make more money, roll it into the next one, and maybe get a conservation project or easement out of it. But if they don't, well, we tried, you know, it's like, so
got our 2 years. We made some interest on this. We don't get hit with capital gains. Let's take the money and roll to the next one.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. I get it. For nonprofit, whatever, like if you're publicly traded, private, whatever, I get a business is a business, but especially in that world, you're supposed to be very transparent, right? People are donating a lot of money thinking that, okay, I'm writing this check, whether it's because I can or whether it's for tax reasons, whatever. Like, people that can write a check, that's great. Like, I appreciate those people. You know, I like to give my time and do things. I'm more of a give my time, acts of service versus walk away. Like, I'd rather do something that's meaningful, but everybody in terms of giving is different. But, it's like, be transparent.
It's all I'm asking
for. You know, if you did this or have this, let us know and make it very public that you're doing things where the actually money is making an impact. And
I'm with you.
So,
well, dude,
we've been rambling. I don't know if this is normal or not, but
this is every episode.
Yeah, it's good. I could probably keep going. It just, every time you get down a hole, right? You just keep going.
Can of worms.
But no, this is, like I was telling you earlier, I haven't really, I've been a lot of places. I was trying to think as I was driving up here, like certain things I wanted to highlight, but like I'll drive out of here and there'll be 5 things I wish I would have talked about, but like I haven't really had a chance to like talk through some of the cool things I've done. It's always been, hey, can we do a 30-minute on your little, and so I was like, yeah, just kind of a little bit about this and it's over. But like the ability to just like, oh yeah, that time I was in Colorado, or, oh yeah, that time I was in, you know, Africa, like just to tell some of the cool things. Like,
That's why I like this, man. I try not to like have like an agenda. Like obviously
yeah,
there's points and topics that if people accomplish want to talk, I definitely want to cover those. But for the most part, dude, we
yeah,
just sit down and have a
open book,
conversation.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
very,
just
very,
talking.
very open and just enjoy it and enjoy the
Yeah,
conversation. And I'm glad you swung by and um yeah, man, I appreciate your time. This is cool.
yeah,
I like to hear the stories. You're a very blessed man, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah. I am. I'm very fortunate. Like,
Yep.
there's not a morning I don't wake up and I just realize, like, I'm very fortunate, even, for not only the stuff that I've done, which is, pretty cool, but like just being able to live and like live in this awesome country, to
Yep.
be able to do the things we want to do. And because not everybody gets that privilege, right? And I've always viewed
Mm,
hunting as a privilege, and it's one of those things that it's a nice too, and we realize it every day that more and more of it's getting taken from us. And if
absolutely.
you take that for granted and don't do it, you're going to be the one saying, God, I wish I would have done that. People say to me all the time, why do you go to Africa? I'll do that when I'm 70.
Well,
I may not be there when I'm 70,
why wait till you're 70?
yeah, it's not a, physically demanding whatever. Like,
But it's the time of your life.
yeah, it's great. It's awesome. And it's an experience. Like, it was 95 degrees, 90% humidity. And I was going back, no air conditioning for almost 2.5 weeks, living in a decent tent, but had a shower. But like, those were the conditions, like
Mhm.
complete opposite of what you would expect, and like oh, I went up in the mountains in the snow. Like, no, it was the complete opposite of that. But like, I may not be able to, the government of Mozambique could say, you know what?
We're done.
We're done. We're not letting hunters come anymore. Like, that's why it's like, if there's an opportunity, I'm going to seize it, because just because it's out there now doesn't mean in 20 years it's going to be
Mhm.
there. And I know a lot of people that are living proof that said,
Wish I would have gone.
yeah, I used to hunt in Cameroon or other places, or places in Africa where I did this, and now you can't hunt those anymore there. So anyway, I hunted Kenya. Well, you can't do that anymore.
No.
Like, so anyway, we're blessed. We're all blessed to be able to do the things we do,
Yeah,
and
we are.
the things that give us juice and joy and fun and all that. So no, this was cool.
Cool, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Yep. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.